Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. A nice Friday lineup. We got producer Griffin in the house, as well as Emily Jashinsky. There's nothing going on, so I guess it's going to be a short show, right? No. Actually, we have some bombshell news that we're going to react to, as well as what's going on with the Stephen Colbert situation. For those of you who are premium subscribers, you're going to get access to two very important stories. One is the attack by the Israeli Defense Forces on a Catholic church, actually, in Gaza. It wounded the father, actually, of that church, as well as a major reaction from the global Catholic community, condemnation from the White House. Very, very interesting. And then there is going to be an exclusive for our premium subscribers early, which is my interview with Andrew Schulz and the entire Flagrant crew. I asked them a lot of the burning internet questions. Do they regret their Trump interview? Would they handle things differently? Does JD Vance pass the vibe check? Is Dave Portnoy only mad about Mamdani because of Israel? So a lot of very interesting subjects that I think people will like. So if you want to sign up and get access to that, breakingpoints.com. But let's go ahead and start, guys, with this Wall Street Journal story. I mean, this is the central story around Epstein. Perhaps it explains a lot of the behavior from Donald Trump over the last couple of days. So, guys, can we go ahead and throw that up there? We have a new major revelation here from the Wall Street Journal. Now, keep in mind, the entire town has been talking about this for the last couple of days, that the Wall Street Journal, or one of the major three papers, was sitting on new information regarding Donald Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. It turned out that as Trump himself, and we'll get to this later on, has been trying to kill the story and called Rupert Murdoch himself trying to quash this reporting. What they write is that Donald J. Trump, according to them, submitted a letter for Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday album. It was a leather-bound book, which included remembrances and congratulations from many of Epstein's friends, including Leslie Wexner and Alan Dershowitz. But one of the people who included a letter in there is Donald J. Trump, the current president of the United States. The year was 2003, and allegedly the book was compiled by Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, the actual text and description of the letter is very interesting because definitely, if true, would show, quite a bit of open recognition in the community at the time of Jeffrey Epstein's proclivity. So here's how they describe it. It isn't clear how the letter with Trump's signature was prepared. Inside the outline of a naked woman was a typewritten note styled as an imaginary conversation between Trump and Epstein, written in the third person. Voiceover, there must be more to life than having everything, the note began. Donald, yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey, nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald, we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, yes, we do, come to think of it. Donald, enigmas never aid. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey, as a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Donald, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday. May every day be another wonderful secret. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, what do we think of this, guys? What do we think, Emily?
So there's a lot for us to untangle here because the allegation is that Donald Trump in the year of our Lord 2003 was doodling naked women and signed his name as the, to be crass, this is in the journal story, pubic hair on the body, and then wrote this interesting, I don't know what you would call it. It's not a poem. It's not I don't know how you describe that.
A haiku, a hypothetical dialogue, a play, a play in one act.
I don't know what it was. A play. It was a one act. Yeah.
Yeah. A one man play. But so that is the allegation. Trump has been on a tear. And I know we have some of this saying he is going to sue the Wall Street Journal, vociferously denying it. In the story, his denial says, that's not my language. I never doodle. Women, something to that extent. He does doodle. We do have evidence that he's doodled.
And we'll get to
so
that.
Basically, this dropped last night. And the internet immediately sprung into action with some people who were already skeptical of Trump on Epstein actually saying, from MAGA world, this looks like a fake journal hit piece because the idea of Donald Trump doing anything like this is so out of character. It just doesn't comport with the version of Donald Trump. Like he's making doodles and writing fake one-man plays. Like it is all very odd. At the same time, Saagar, I know you dug into this reporter, and I think it's worth noting And we'll get into all of the previous doodling evidence and the evidence of whether or not Donald Trump would ever use the word enigma in just one moment. But I think, Saagar, one thing that's worth noting here is the reporter's history on the Epstein case.
She's got a good track record. Yeah, actually, if you want to go and put that up, Griffin, I have it here. The element is titled Track Record. So I went and I checked her byline. Her name is Khadija Safdar, and she has 2 previous reports from 2023 about the Jeffrey Epstein case. She actually is the person who published the Wall Street Journal report that showed his calendar from September 8th, 2014, which detailed, quote, meetings with some of the country's richest men, Bill Gates, Leon Black, Thomas Pritzker. But also inside that story was about how Bill Burns, the CIA director under Joe Biden at the time, as he was leaving the Obama administration, actually met with Epstein here in Washington, as well as other high profile individuals. Keep in mind that all of that was confirmed. There's not a single person in that story who did deny it. She also reported in 2023 about how Jeffrey Epstein allegedly found out that Bill Gates was having an affair and then appeared to try to blackmail him for financial purposes. So all I'm saying is that, a lot of that reporting was actually accepted and, even Maga embraced at the time. And so it's important to keep that track record while we have it, just for who this person is. As you said, whenever Donald Trump is basically saying that this entire thing is fake, I think specifically it's really worth, Griff, do you want to read what Trump said from the story? We have it in here somewhere from the Journal. Let's see. Yeah, Trump denied writing the letter. Go ahead. I'll let you read it out. It's from the Wall Street Journal piece. It's in the first couple.
Yeah, I got it right here. In an interview with the Journal on Tuesday evening, Trump denied writing the letter or drawing the picture. This is not me. This is a fake thing. It's a fake Wall Street Journal story. I never wrote a picture in my life. I don't draw pictures of women. It's not my language. It's not my words. I'm going to sue the Wall Street Journal just like I sued everyone else.
Okay, and then Griff.
That is his language, and those are his words.
That part is definitely his language. Let's go and put his Truth Social post up, please, which just shows his initial reaction from the story. And basically, it is, by the way, this is a very useful picture into how big media and all of that works with Rupert Murdoch. Keep in mind, the Wall Street Journal is owned by Rupert Murdoch, who owns News Corp. So here, I'll go ahead and read it. The Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch personally were warned directly by President Donald J. Trump. The supposed letter they were printed by Trump to Epstein was a fake, and if they print it, they will be sued. Mr. Murdoch stated he would take care of it, but obviously did not have the power to do so. The editor of the Wall Street Journal, Emma Tucker, was told directly by Caroline Leavitt and by President Trump that the letter was fake, but Emma Tucker, keep in mind, Emma Tucker is the editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal, didn't want to hear that. Instead, they are going with false, malicious, and defamatory story anyway. President Trump will be suing the Wall Street Journal, News Corp, and Mr. Murdoch shortly. The press has to learn to be truthful and not rely on sources that probably don't even exist. President Trump has already beaten George Stephanopoulos, 60 Minutes, etc. It has turned out to be a disgusting and filthy rag. Writing defamatory stories like this shows their desperation to remain relevant. If there were any truth at all on the Epstein hoax as it pertains to President Trump, this information would have been revealed by Comey, Brennan, Crooked Hillary, and other radical left lunatics years ago. There's actually a lot going on here in terms of Trump's reaction, and the timeline matters as well. So the White House was first approached for story, guys, from the Wall Street Journal on Tuesday. Now, keep in mind, that's when we started hearing that this was an Obama and a Hillary and a Comey hoax. And also, specifically, that's when the term the Epstein hoax was invented by Donald Trump ahead of all of this story that was coming and dropping on Thursday evening. Gives some important context to the president's comments. But again, we've got to stick with some evidence here. And I also want to give some background in terms of how big media works as well. Okay, so here we have the Wall Street Journal printed a fake letter. These are not my words, not the way I talk. I don't draw pictures. I told Murdoch it was a scam. He shouldn't print this fake story, but he did. Now I'm going to sue his ass off, that of his third-rate newspaper. Thank you for this attention to this matter, DJT. So people are, first of all, it shows that Trump has the power to call Rupert Murdoch and basically try to order him around at will. But some interesting background that people may not know is that when when the Theranos story was being reported in 2015, Rupert Murdoch had personally invested $100 million actually with Elizabeth Holmes. Elizabeth Holmes called Murdoch and was like, dude, you need to kill this story. It's going to kill your investment as well as everybody else. And Murdoch was like, look, I'm sorry, I don't interfere with the operations of the Wall Street Journal. Just keep that in mind, in terms of how the story is able to move forward, even with Trump's immense pressure on the company. I will say
Saagar,
the fact, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we should also mention, and maybe this is exactly where you were about to go, Oliver Darcy, who is a media reporter, broke news in a very meta sense that the Wall Street Journal was working on a bombshell story about Trump and Epstein yesterday afternoon. The story was then forced to come to print. In all likelihood, I say forced to come to print. I think that's likely what happened a couple of hours later, which, Saagar, your read on this, I'm sure, is the same as mine. It indicates there was some type of tussle at the Wall Street Journal, someone leaked that they were working on the story to force the hand of the paper to go to print.
Very, very, very soon. And there's actually a brand new just tweet out right now. I look forward to getting to Rupert Murdoch to testify in my lawsuit against him and his pile of garbage newspaper, the Journal. That will be an interesting experience. I mean, in my opinion, Trump is playing with fire here because, lawsuits have discovery, and discovery means that evidence needs to come out. I will say before we continue to dig into this, the only mistake right now by the Wall Street Journal is they didn't just print the damn letter, because then everybody can just judge not only the doodle, but the actual signature for itself. I mean, at the same time, they do describe a letter here being signed in Sharpie and a heavy marker. I personally have never seen Donald Trump do that, have I? But let's also get into some of the claims about the doodling. So Trump says, I've never drawn a picture in my life. So Griffin, do you want to go ahead and put that up there where we have a actual image of a doodle that Donald Trump
we've
submitted.
Got images. We've got a gallery here.
Let's put the gallery image here. So these are multiple actual images and doodles that Donald Trump drew of the New York skyline that he would auction off in the year 2004. And actually what's interesting is Trump actually wrote about it in one of his books about how he would often do a quick doodle that only took him a couple of minutes before he would kind of shoot them off. So look, that's not necessarily out of the picture. We also,
that one's beautiful. Some of these are
one of them's not
stunning.
bad. Yeah, one of them is not bad.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, he did it probably in like under 30 seconds. So that's kind of impressive.
That's the worst one. That's like a child's.
Because he gave up on the windows.
Yeah,
he didn't have consistent window aesthetic here. Some of them are filled in.
He
some
had
aren't.
casinos to build.
Well said. All right, let's stick with this because there's several claims for why this is not Donald Trump's authentic letter. He's never doodled. That's just not true. There's also let's put the Enigma thing up there. Griffin, there was some talk of like, it doesn't even sound like Trump. Trump has literally never even used the word Enigma. Actually, we do have video of him using the word Enigma from 2015. Yeah, let's go ahead and play it. Let's play the audio, please. Okay, so that's twice that he says the word enigma. I guess proving he does know the word enigma. I will submit a couple things. It is weird that it's typewritten. Very rare for Trump to give a typewritten thing. Usually he, writes things by hand or he comments things and kind of writes things on the margins. At the same time, if you combine the of the Wall Street Journal reporter's record, the fact that the doodle, and by the way, I forgot to even mention this. There are two other notes that are described in the Journal story. One from Leslie Wexner, where he was like, Jeffrey, I'm just going to give you what you always wanted. It was literally a drawing of boobs,
women's breasts,
like a crude drawing of boobs. And then the second one is from Alan Dershowitz, which is some joke about the Vanity Fair article by Vicky Ward that came out in March of 2003, making fun of Bill Clinton. But my point is, though, is that Dershowitz did not deny actually writing that. He said, it's been a long time. I don't even know what I would have written there at the time. Wexner also did not deny the report that he sent in there. So look, I mean, I know MAGA is very wedded to the idea that this is fake. So let's put all of that just like purely in terms of the report itself. But then let's look at the meta conversation. I mean, this is the Wall Street Journal. This is the most successful of the big three newspapers. Yes, I know it's owned by Murdoch, and I'm not saying it, very often isn't used, especially the op-ed page, as a tool for Israel and for low taxes. But I mean, if you consider the idea that the letter itself is fake, then they burned the entire paper, because that actually would be defamation. If you knowingly publish something which you knew to be fake, or in which you got hoaxed, I mean, you in a discovery process will be found out pretty damn quickly, in my opinion, Emily, that this is done. And frankly, considering their track record on Epstein, I mean, think about it. They've had multiple reports here about Epstein and his connections to multiple billionaires, Leon Black, Bill Gates, and all. None of them ever sued the Wall Street Journal, and presumably they would have if it was fake. And, this is the big question about kind of the source of this information. But, I personally, I know this is going to infuriate a lot of people, I think it's real. I mean, I just think that combining the totality of the evidence of the journal report, the track record of the reporter itself, the fact that they knew almost certainly that this would face lawsuit and published it anyways, you're putting your entire reputation on the line. I do think it's real. That said, I do think the journal has done a disservice and actually kind of granted Maga a real out on the story by not just releasing the entire thing in and of itself, which they should have. Like, in my opinion, they should actually just release a high resolution photo of every single page of the book, because I want to know everybody who's sending Jeffrey Epstein little body letters in a handwritten thing compiled by Ghislaine Maxwell. Your guys' reaction?
Well, and it's possible what they're doing, as people have pointed out, is pulling a Jeffrey Goldberg, right? Where they get Donald Trump to make his denial, and then he's on the record denying that it's real. They then release a very, real looking document that was their source for the story, and let the public judge. And Trump has sort of gone all hard in the paint, all out denial, saying this is not real. Now, I suspect Donald Trump would say that it was not real either way.
Yeah, he'll say no matter what.
Now, so the one thing that I want to point out, and I know we have differing takes on the possible source. We don't know the source of this. Obviously, the journal is cagey about how they ended up with this. I think it is very worth noting, as you mentioned earlier, Saagar, that around the time we know Trump talked to the Wall Street Journal because he was asked for comment on this story they were working on, he starts pinning the blame on specifically James Comey. Obviously, he mentions Biden, and now Crooked Hillary is in the mix and all of that. Maureen Comey is fired from the Southern District, New York Justice Department post Wednesday. Yeah. Could have had to do with Diddy, that she did not.
Botch the case.
She botched the Diddy case. It could have been a long time coming from Pam Bondi. All of that stuff could be possible. Also, interesting though, that Maureen Comey leaves, and she was a key prosecutor in the Epstein case and the Ghislaine Maxwell case. And this is around the exact same time that the journal has its hands on, this is the most important part, what it says was part of the Justice Department's files on Epstein. That is early in the Wall Street Journal story. It says that this letter from Donald Trump, which did not leak until right now, nobody ever saw it, nobody ever leaked it, was from the Justice Department. It was among the Justice Department's files. So to me, that is a very, very interesting timeline. On the other hand, Saagar, there's also a possibility it's something of a warning shot from Ghislaine Maxwell, as you and others have pointed out.
I'm willing to submit to both because, I mean, look, I actually think a lot of this probably did come from Ghislaine Maxwell, but it could have come years ago. I don't think that all of it was necessarily leaked to the Wall Street Journal by the legal system. I will note, as you said, that it's very possible because the cope I've seen for the last couple of days, didn't Megyn Kelly say this? She's like, well, there's like indication that they were altered or assembled in a way to point at Donald Trump.
Well, this is what's interesting. She said people were telling her that. Sources from inside the administration were trying to sort of plant the seeds of that narrative.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is Trump's fault, because if this is a small part of the Epstein, I mean, look, let's analyze things in two directions. First of all, the letter is creepy as fuck. All right, like there's no getting around it. That's creepy. It's weird. Go, Griffin, you're muted, I think. I can't hear you.
It's almost like romantic, isn't it? Between the two of them.
Yeah, it's weird.
There's like there's very flowery language here. Yeah, is what I would say.
Look, it's odd, and that's saying it kindly. What does he say? Our wonderful secret? Yeah. it gives me the fucking heebie-jeebies even just thinking about it. And then the rest of these guys just joking about women's breasts and all this stuff. And a guy's 50-year-old birthday, creepy, strange. Again, combine it with Trump's on-the-record quote to New York Magazine, 2002. I've known Jeffrey for 15 years. He's a terrific guy. He likes beautiful women as much as I do. He likes them young. There's no doubt Jeffrey enjoys his social life. That's on-the-record quote from Donald Trump, 2002, to New York Magazine. And then this is 1 year or so later between the two. If, I guess they're positing that it's just not real at all. But I mean, first of all, just kind of demonstrates the extent to which this kind of was an open secret amongst the Palm Beach, New York circuit, amongst Epstein and all of his associates. But if we dig a little bit further and we consider some more things like in the relationship, this is Trump's own fault for not releasing the files. Because if this is a small part of the evidence, like this book, right, which is part of the grand jury documents and the quote black book, whatever else you want to call it, then of course people who are partisan, who have access to it, are going to be like, yeah, this is why he's acting so weird and covering it up. Because at this point, Trump has now said, I don't want a special prosecutor. Now, Griffin, let's put the Pam Bondi thing up, because this is kind of the latest attempt to try and get ahead of it. This is where things are currently moving in terms of them trying to appear as if they're having more disclosure. So Trump tweets last night, based on the ridiculous amount of publicity given to Jeffrey Epstein, I have asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. This scam perpetrated by the Democrats should end right now. But let's actually linger on these grand jury documents, because this is really important. First of all, these are not the Epstein files, guys. The grand jury documents that they are referring to are specifically the 2019 grand jury or 2019 indictment and grand jury documents that were used to prepare the indictment against Epstein in 2019. Okay. That is not the totality of all of the information that the government has on Epstein. Let's also look very specifically at the word all pertinent grand jury testimony. What does that mean? All pertinent grand? No. Release all the grand jury testimony. So we're already kind of scoping it. Second is that the reason that this grand jury testimony and documents have not been released is actually because Maureen Comey, whenever she was the SDNY prosecutor on the case, went to the judge and said, hey, this needs to remain under seal because Ghislaine Maxwell's process continues to be under review. Mm-hmm. And if this comes out, it could actually violate Ghislaine Maxwell's right to due process. And the judge actually agreed with her, at least partially, in that case. And so there's going to be all kinds of legal wrangling around this, because it actually could put the Maxwell trial or the subsequent legal appellate stuff that's happening right now in danger. It will take weeks, if not months, for something like this to happen. You can go to a judge. Listen, I mean, does anybody know how the federal court system works? Like, people don't just magically wave a release button. The thing that Trump does have the ability to do is to declassify all of this other information that allegedly they've been working on now for 6 months. Remember, Kash Patel said that they had dozens of agents working on the case, compiling information. That's something that is under your purview that could be released. And I just think that this is another misdirect where, MAGA forces are trying to be like, see, like, we're getting transparency. And I'm like, guys, this is just to be honest, I'm not saying it's a nothing burger. All information is good information, but it's not the Epstein files in any way that were promised. Because remember that the government's case against Epstein in 2019 still only really focused on Epstein. Like, it's a very narrowly tailored charges that don't implicate a broader circle. And they definitely don't get into the source of his money and his finances.
Yeah, that's right. Griffin, I don't know if you had something to say, but I just wanted to add this entire book is well worth the Wall Street Journal printing at this point, because 100%. One of the things that's most convincing about this document is that it's part of a larger book in which the other notes appear to be well within character. And Trump should be furious at Pam Bondi, because the only reason we are now mired in a week plus long news cycle about Jeffrey Epstein is that Pam Bondi Maybe Trump told her to do this. We don't know that yet, but Pam Bondi moved in the most ham-fisted possible way to close the case and say, quote, no further disclosures would be warranted. And if Pam Bondi had handled this with a modicum more just pure like logic and competence from a public relations perspective, and that's a very cynical way to look at it, but it's from the politics, it's completely true. The only reason this is now dogging Trump over the last week or so is because Bondi said literally like case closed, wrapping it up, nothing more to see here, which set all of this off. So it's the understanding the truth of what happened is, and always has been, muddled by the politics, because people at the Wall Street Journal, Rupert Murdoch, have, important, powerful relationships with people like Donald Trump and others who are potentially implicated in the Epstein world. And that's just going to be inextricably intertwined with our ability to know what the hell actually happened, is that we are seeing this through the glass of politics. And the glass is cracked and smudged because people want it that way. And this is another example of that. So it's hard to separate the two at this point. But the letter in itself, I think that's an important observation, Saagar, is not, it's extremely weird. It's extremely weird. It's not directly
it's not a smoking
incriminating.
Gun.
Yeah, it's not a smoking gun. It's weird as hell. It looks really, really bad. And it seems to be real at this point. Trump probably could have managed this without basically inviting people to leak and prove him wrong.
Yeah, all he had to do was release it. And then, maybe some of this would have come out. But, I'm assuming that there's probably something in there that's a lot worse for a lot of people, especially with the financial transactions. I mean, one of the things that I know I'm a broken record, but it's very important to actually understand like what, quote, Epstein files should mean. Here, let me try I'm a boomer, but I'm going to try my best to share my screen, because there was a big report yesterday by Ron Wyden. And look, I get it, MAGA, yes, he's a Democrat, blah, blah, blah. But, Ron Wyden has been actually working on the Epstein case for quite some time. And he is the Senate Finance Chairman. He says that the government is sitting on secret bank filings showing $1.5 billion in suspicious wire transfers by Epstein, involving some of the most powerful people in the world. Now, as I said here, how about we release those? So the thing is, and the story is extraordinary. And by the way, because I know a lot of people in Washington do listen to the show, if you are one of the people who was able to review these documents, please contact me. I've been desperately trying to get into contact with you. So the way that this all went down, apparently, is last year, the Treasury Department allowed Ron Wyden and members of the Senate Financial Services Committee to sit and review suspicious activities reports filed by 4 of the biggest banks in the world. Those suspicious activities reports detail $1.5 billion in suspicious transactions by Epstein in and out of his accounts, very often to Russian banks, to Eastern European women. It fits exactly with the pattern laid out by the New York Financial Services Department in their fine against Deutsche Bank, except the totality of the money is insane, because we're talking about $1.5 billion in wire transfers. The Treasury Department right now is sitting on that information. Mm-hmm. Whenever they allowed the Senate to look at it, they refused to let them make copies and only let them make handwritten notes in a classified setting, which have yet to be released. All we know is the number of $1.5 billion. So again, if you're one of the people who saw those, please contact me. I would like to talk
if you're
to
at Treasury.
But yeah, if you're in the Treasury Department and you have at one point, I will protect your identity. But the point is that the government is sitting on that right now. That is not subject to any private, like they could release that today if they wanted to. Same with the IRS, which has all of this documentation around all of these trust accounts and other things that were linked to him. Release even just one, or even review one of the guy's tax returns. Where did the money come from? It's all in there. This is America. I forget, it's from The Wire. But it's something, it's like, in this country, somebody's name is on somebody's piece of paper somewhere. It just is, okay? And you can follow the paper trail if you want to, if you're actually motivated. And in the words of Lester Freeman, if you start to follow the money, you don't know where the fuck it's going to take you. And I mean, this is one of those where what we're watching is a bastardization of like what the alleged Epstein files and all that were. And then, like you said, politically, it's just pretty obvious that this is entirely a fault of their own making. Like they said the case was closed, which reignited public interest, which exposed a cover-up, which then had people digging even more. I mean, is there any reality where this book report or whatever would have come out if Trump had actually released much of the information? No, it would have been like a WikiLeaks dump, you know, everybody would have gone deep into it. So yeah, I think that the whole thing is really crazy, but it is also proof to me of how, at the end of the day, MAGA will fall in line. And I think that's important as well for people to understand with the Iran thing. Like, this is going to be a job of like people who are actually independent minded. And yes, unfortunately now, because it's polarized, Democrats and the mainstream media, like I don't really see a way out of this. Yeah, exactly. Here we have JD Vance's tweet. He says, "Forgive my language, but this story is complete and utter bullshit. The Wall Street Journal should be ashamed for publishing it. Where is this letter? Would you be shocked to learn they never showed it to us before publishing? Does anyone honestly believe this sounds like Donald Trump?" Follow up, Griffin. He had a reply there as well. I forget exactly what it was. If you just scroll down. Okay, go ahead. If we scroll down and look at it. Doesn't it violate some rule of journalistic ethics to publish a letter like this without showing it to the victim of this hit piece? Will the people who have bought into every hoax against President Trump show an ounce of skepticism before buying into this bizarre story? And so, again, I mean, I really don't think that the journal did anything, quote, wrong, except for not publishing it. And it's not even about showing it to Trump. It's for all of us, because in a sense, they have just invited this reaction. Yeah, here example, Representative Anna Paulino Luna, please don't show this to the Wall Street Journal. It's a hand sketch. They may think I'm a sex trafficker. You know, I've seen even many people who are extraordinarily critical of Trump's handling of the Epstein files immediately just being like, hey, this is complete bullshit. There's no way this is real. It's obviously a hoax. I mean, again, look, I'm open to it. It would be a pretty extraordinary journalistic scandal if it was. But at the end of the day, the fact that they ran with it and it went through standards, and Murdoch and the entire Murdoch empire is putting their entire financial future on the line, I guess it's possible they did it with Dominion. But, you know, Trump's going to have to prove it. I see a bungling here of just epic proportions. Griffin,
I mean, wouldn't it be like career suicide to like post
you're
this?
Dead.
I mean, you're coming at the king with birthday letters, and you best not miss.
Right.
I mean, I guess my question for you guys is like, why haven't they not released it? Like, shouldn't they just turn it into like a coffee book or something and start selling it? And like, you know, on top of that, like, it might even at this point help Trump for it to all be released, because it's not just Trump in there. There's like 50 other names in there, and there's like a lot of other smoke and a lot of other ways to kind of take it with other letters from other people. So like I don't see, like, it seems like it would help almost both sides for it to just all be released at this point.
Trump can release it. The Justice Department has it. I mean, that's the Wall Street Journal says it's part of the Justice Department documents.
So here is my theory. And this is a quote from the story. Pages from the Leatherbound album, assembled from Epstein, were first arrested in 2006, are among the documents examined by Justice Department officials who investigated Epstein and Maxwell years ago, according to people who have reviewed the pages. It is unclear if any of them are part of the Trump administration's review. The Justice Department documents the so-called Epstein files, and who are in them are at the center of the storm consuming that. But here's my theory. The Journal doesn't have the book. The Justice Department has the book. Somebody in the DOJ leaked a photo or a filing of the book and the paper to the Journal. This is just my theory. This is pure speculation. That is the source and why they had to print it by hand. So, like, for example, remember that whole reality winner scandal whenever the NSA sent those she sent those documents from the NSA or whoever she was working for to the Intercept, and the way that she got caught was by distributing the screenshots of the printout. So very often, guys, just to explain this for classified settings or legal documentation, they'll have distinguishing marks actually on the pages themselves. And that way, if that were to ever come out, it would be easy to identify whoever leaked that, like a unique identifier or something. Think about like what's it called? Like a page mark or something like that, you know, whenever it's like not for public consumption, that type of thing. That's my theory as to why they have not released it. A watermark. Yeah, exactly. That's my personal theory for why it has not yet been released.
I think that's a very strong theory. I think that's probably right. Which means the Justice Department could show us the whole book right now.
Right. And that's the thing about Trump is now, it sets up a very interesting incentive because now Trump's gonna be like, I'm under attack by the deep state and all of this. And it's like, bro, you can just release it. It's like, you could have just released it. And again, it would have just been one of many different stories that are in there. And it's the whole thing is very interesting.
Yeah, be like safety in numbers, kind of, right? Like, oh, there's just so many other people to look at here, and it just seems like Trump is having an incredibly emotional reaction to what seems like a very intimate, almost loving relationship with Epstein to like a level that I don't think we've really fully seen before. I mean, we've heard about them being best friends. We've heard about them playing like weird games in an elevator, I think, from a woman in the past. But this seemed to be just the most kind of like they are partners in crime. I mean, it kind of felt like a if I did it, O.J. Simpson type of moment, like where everyone's
really
kind of
suspicious, man. And I'm telling you, I genuinely didn't believe most of the Trump. I thought, all right, Trump is a sleazy guy, not a surprise to anybody, right? Trump, had the on the record quote, Trump is a philanderer and for years bragged about his sexual prowess with young women to the tabloids. So I was like, okay. I mean, I thought that was baked in. And then to the extent that the whole Epstein thing is like, Epstein had all these like pretty Victoria's Secret model girls and all that. Trump was involved with the beauty pageant, but nothing beyond what kind of was already out in the open. I was like, but the thing is now is his reaction is just so sketchy and weird that it really kind of does make me think that there might be something else there because you have Elon saying it, right? And then that's another theory of mine is that the reason that the FBI and the Attorney General went so hard in the paint about shutting things down was maybe like a political response to Elon Musk. I think that's very probable.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. Right?
And that
really
Trump may have nudged Bondi to do it that way. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then like that's maybe why they did it. But I mean, do we want to play Griffin? If you want to go on YouTube, you can find this. It's like a 1992 package of Trump and Epstein.
NPC.
The video of let me see if I can find it actually.
Yeah,
while you're looking for that, and we talked a little bit about some of the MAGA defense. We put up Anna Paulina kind of doing a jokey drawing, but we have some new polling here about the Trump's handling of this. 63% of voters disapprove of the Trump administration's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Quinnipiac University national poll finds nearly half of voters would consider joining a third party, just not one created by Elon Musk. Sorry,
That's
buddy.
Funny. Yeah.
Well, this also contrasts with numbers that Harry Enton was analyzing on CNN yesterday. There was a new CNN poll, and it's similar in the Quinnipiac poll that shows Republican support for Donald Trump increasing 2 to 3 percentage points, which is very close to the margin of error in both of those polls over the course of the latest chapter in the Epstein saga. So like the last week or so. And go ahead and roll this, Griffin.
I think this one surprised me a bit because of all these complaints online going after Trump and the Epstein files. You might think his approval ratings were going down with Republicans. If anything, they're going up. Republicans who approve of Trump, look at our CNN poll. The prior one, 86%. The one out this week, 88% were Republicans. How about Quinnipiac? The prior poll, 87% approve of Republicans. This week out, 90% with Republicans. If anything, Donald Trump's approval rating has gone up since this whole Epstein saga started.
Okay, so the margin of error there was plus or minus 6. So if you're thinking about that, it means there could be no movement or there could have been a slight drop potentially in the numbers. But this is very easy to reconcile. Like say this is accurately gauging Republican support for Donald Trump. It's very easy to reconcile with the numbers in the exact same poll that shows 65% of Americans don't support his handling of the Epstein files, which is that to most Americans, and this is always worth saying when you're talking about Jeffrey Epstein, do most people care about the Epstein story? Yes. Are most people disgusted by the Epstein story because they believe that it reflects a sick and corrupt ruling class? Yes. Is it most people's top priority? No. It's many people's, it's high up on the list of many people's priorities. It's a very powerful proxy issue. It's a powerful symbol, and there are substantive questions of justice that still needs to be served in and of itself. But I think it is always worth saying that this is a story people in media who know some folks that might be implicated, who can think about this as a meta media story at the same time, are always going to be more interested in it than most members of the public. That does not make the story unimportant, though.
Yeah,
right.
totally.
To your point, Emily, like even in that Harry Enton poll, there was only one person who responded saying that it was like a top priority issue. Not 1%, but just one person only said that it was a top priority issue.
Yeah, I would just caution this type of analysis, though, because it's like, it's about a vibe. You can't quantify it.
I agree.
It's just, it all compounds on itself. It's like Epstein, Iran, the Israel situation. You can feel it happening. And yeah, you could say that that's stupid. But by the way, guys, did Trump not get elected on a vibe? I think he did. I mean, I think that was a huge part of it. If you guys watch my interview with Andrew Schulz, that's for our premium subscribers early, we talk about this. I go, hey, did you guys feel like you maybe voted on vibes and you didn't vote on policy? And, you know, I mean, it's not a call out. I think most people vote that way. I'm just saying, like, I think that was pretty important for this whole idea of like the outsider versus the insiders and a new way of doing business. And like this all just screams just, you know, very classic way. I also, you know, I mean, this footage is genuinely crazy. Like when you watch this is archive footage from NBC at Mar-a-Lago in 2002. I mean, just like what you're watching is Trump around with Epstein. 1992. Yeah, 1992. But you can see this is at Mar-a-Lago. But one thing I also hate about Epstein is he's always dressed down. I know it's a small complaint, but he always wore a tracksuit.
That's never his greatest sin. His greatest sin.
It's one of his great sins. And it, by the way, just shows you that not dressing properly is often a indication,
a sign of moral ill,
proclivities of moral ills. Yes. So everybody else there is dressed well. You can see Ghislaine there in the background, and Jeffrey and Trump having animated conversation. But yeah, I mean, look, I knew that this all existed. I always was like, yeah, you know, they definitely knew each other. I don't think it, you know, went beyond anything like too crazy, but it's really the behavior of Trump since then that just has me being like, I mean, it's mystifying. It really is mystifying. But what's also important for everybody to understand, as you pointed out in that CNN poll, for all of that, MAGA's got his back. All right. This is now a media story. It's a hoax. They will never believe it.
It genuinely
it helped him.
It internally in the internecine squabble, it absolutely helped him because
100%.
Now it looks like he is under attack. But they didn't print the picture. If they had printed the picture, it would have been different. I'm not saying the Wall Street Journal by any means should allow the politics of MAGA to dictate its reporting. Of course, that's not true. But hypothetically, if the Journal had printed the story, it would have looked obviously a lot less like a major media hit piece on Donald Trump. That drove everyone back into Trump's arms because he's embattled, which is exactly what he has been trying to do all week. Brilliant on Trump's part. I mean, genuinely, when he started saying that this was coming from Comey and Biden and whomever else, Obama, yes, all of us look at that and we're like, okay, but he knew what was coming, which was a Justice Department file that had been sat on for a while that he can now say, isn't that interesting? It's coming out in the Wall Street Journal. Just me. There's all these other people in the book. And so he was cleverly, obviously, trying to point in that direction. Probably the best defense that he can muster, and it's obviously still not good enough. But what it does do is stigmatize people in MAGA who continue to raise questions and make them 100%. Look like they're doing the bidding of Comey in the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, right. And that...
Yeah, I mean, just so stupid. But, yeah, I mean,
do you guys
it's not going
think
to change anything that we're going to do. But, yeah, go ahead.
Do you guys think that there would be an outlet that they could have gotten this to that MAGA would have accepted more as opposed to, like, the mainstream media? Like, could they have gotten this to Rogan or to some independent outlet that may have made it land a little bit better?
They could have just dropped it themselves. I'm serious. Like if Trump had said, the Wall Street Journal is about to release this story on me writing a letter to Jeffrey Epstein, that
here's
was
the whole book
intended as a joke. here's the book, here's the letter that the Wall Street Journal is trying to make into some bombshell, and then it would have looked way less. I think it would have looked way less.
It's locker room talk 2.0. Here's all the sketchy Democrats. Here's all the other sketchy Democrats who are in the book. Okay, done.
Yeah, exactly. And then like Saagar mentioned that it's about vibes and this hurts Trump's vibe. But, we're not in like an election time unless we're thinking about a Trump third term. So like, what does this really affect does this affect Trump's governance over this current term? Like, does this affect his political power going forward with like other endorsements? Like, because if Saagar, you're saying this hurts the vibe, then what does Trump need the vibe for at this point?
Great point. It's about mind space. So can we all submit the Lewinsky story was important? Yeah. Like in terms of politics, right? Can we agree with that?
I'll submit to that.
All right. Yeah. But it was fucking stupid at the end of the day. Like the entire investigation and the country's obsession and all of that over Lewinsky and all the details and the Ken Starr report and Congress. Well, what did that do? I mean, I've read multiple accounts of Clinton's presidency. It consumed every moment of every day, from the legal stuff to the subpoenas to the spin to the press conference, to the extent that Clinton is distracted in major meetings involving NATO intervention in Serbia. And there's a lot of conspiracies that he actually bombed Serbia to distract from the Lewinsky scandal. So the point is like, what do you need a vibe for when you're president? So you can govern. There's only so many hours in the day. And by the way, this is a capricious guy who's obsessed with cable television and the news, which means he's going to be monitoring this and thinking about nothing else. So every every moment of a president's time is a zero-sum game. Every single moment that a president spends is time that he could be spending doing something else. And it's the job of his staff and of himself to keep himself well ordered. This is true of any extremely highly powerful individual, and especially true in the case of the president.
Yeah, that's true. And to the point that Saagar was making, I just want to, this is how I put it earlier this week. I wrote about it. Will Epstein files become Trump's Kabul moment? And I think that's smart. The way I was thinking about it on the vibe level is if you look back at the Biden presidency, he never recovered after Kabul. Like that's the moment that his favorability like never ever recovered from. And I think part of it is because he campaigned on being this president for decency and bringing back, like restoring the nation. And Trump ran on draining the swamp. And this makes him look so weak that while it's nobody's top priority, in the same way that nobody went to the polls in 2022 or 2024 and said, I want to vote against the party that botched the Afghanistan withdrawal. Almost nobody did that. I don't think people are going to be going to the polls for the most part in the midterms saying, I'm going to vote against the party that seems to be hiding something on Jeffrey Epstein. But what it does do is make Trump look weak. It makes him politically damaged. Yeah, he's on defense. Yeah, absolutely. And all of that, by the way, total unforced error because Bondi handled it, and maybe she was handling it this way because of Trump. But the way that it was handled put them on defense because they said case closed, which was never, ever, ever going to suffice or to be satisfactory, period. And just lastly, to Saagar, those people out there who may be right of center like we are, just imagine, in all honesty, if Joe Biden had a pattern like this, how it would imagine that this was a letter from Bill Clinton. Imagine seriously.
Just be real, be honest. Yeah. All right. And just listen. The case that I think I presented is one that it's about. The denial is I've never doodled. It's like, okay, well, here's all these doodles. I've never said the word enigma. It's like, well, here's the word.
Well, did he say that he said it wasn't his language? And then Maga.
Yeah, he's like, it's not my language. But other people
use the word enigma. Yeah. And it turned out
dude. Yeah, he said it. All right. And then you have to also, I mean, I know everybody, listen, nobody hates the media and all those people more than me. Okay. But because we're in this business, you don't just publish shit. Like, especially when you're the Wall Street Journal or others, you have to have them dead and stone cold on something like this before you go to print. I've been involved with much more minor stuff where, oh my God, the level of review and I mean, Griffin, you were here for Signalgate, remember? You remember how much fucking sweat we had to put into that? And be like,
yeah, it was so much homework. It wasn't fun at all.
Yeah, it's not. It's honestly not fun to report this because you have to sit there and be like, okay, is it responsible? You know, you see comment from the Justice Department or from the Pentagon, you know, in response to this stuff, and then that's just, you know, little breaking points. Okay, this is one of the premier world newspapers, so. Right. It's, you know, they knew
lawyers. They have a team of the best lawyers in the world.
Oh my God. Like lawyers upon lawyers upon lawyers. Like at the end of the day, when you hit publish on something like this, there's an entire apparatus that is going to back you up. It's like, okay, you want to sue them? Like, fine. And don't forget, this is probably a good segue to the Colbert thing. It's not like Trump had CBS dead to rights on 60 Minutes.
Absolutely.
If 60 Minutes had fought this in court, Trump was the one who was going to lose. Yes. They ended up caving because they want their merger with Skydance to be approved. Let's be very clear. Same with ABC News and Disney. ABC settled with Trump, basically just be like, let's make this go away. There is no scenario, zero, where any of these people do not prevail in court. Their own lawyers would tell you that. They're going to win 100%. And Trump would have to pay their legal fees.
I think the ABC one would have been that one actually would have been more of a fight, but the CBS one was a joke.
I don't know. I mean, God, come on, Emily. I mean, the bar for defamation and libel is so fucking high.
It's true. Like, although Stephanopoulos wasn't.
Look, he got over his skis. Look, the guy got over his skis. Fine. That's not defamation. Like, you have to be able to prove that he knew what he was saying was false. Same with libel. You have to prove damages. Like, you can't do that.
Right.
There's a magnitude difference between the bullshit CBS one and
100%. I agree with you. But what I'm more saying is, like, in every single one of these cases, single one, in my opinion, there's no way that they don't win.
100.
Yeah.
Saagar, you mentioned Monica Lewinsky earlier, which kind of leads me to like my final question on the subject, which is sort of like the culture and sort of how different parts of Trump's cultural coalition are reacting to this. I've got a clip here from Shane Gillis recently where he
ESPYs?
Let's see.
From the ESPYs?
At the ESPYs, yeah. So let's play this clip here.
Right. So good.
Donald Trump wants to stage a UFC fight on the White House lawn. The last time he staged a fight in D.C., Mike Pence almost died. All right. I don't have to do that. It was fine. I didn't write it. Actually, it was supposed to be an Epstein joke here, but as it got deleted. Must have probably deleted itself, right? Probably never existed, actually. Let's move on as a country and ignore that.
As a country.
Let's move on as a country. So, yeah, I mean, I guess my question for both of my MAGA hosts here is, you know, I do see a big difference.
Yeah, I was like, don't put that label on me, but go ahead.
Sorry.
You can call us fascists, just don't.
Okay, yeah. To my two Groyper hosts here. So
I would rather be a Groyper.
With... You know, I do see sort of like a delineation or a schism between the sort of MAGA influencers like your Charlie Kirks versus the bro sphere, the Rogan sphere podcasters that have been a lot more confrontational about this subject. I see, you know, Shane Gillis' joke. I've seen Rogan talk about it. I've seen Theo Vaughn kind of demand for there to be more. So, like, what does that mean in terms of Trump's like cultural coalition? In terms of what do you guys think?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about with the vibe, and that's also why that poll was really dumb because it said it was about Republicans. It's like, who cares about Republicans? There's not that many Republicans. Right. That you think everybody who voted Republican is a Republican? No. You think everybody who voted Democrat is a Democrat? No. And it's very rare. There's a huge independent swing to Donald Trump in the 2024 election. And to the extent that culture is being driven here and to affect Donald Trump, those podcast reactions, in my opinion, are way more impactful than the Charlie Kirk. I mean, actually, I'll give Kirk credit. He has young MAGA people who listen to him. He's probably the only one of that who actually has like a real young audience. But the rest
when he goes to colleges, it's insane.
Right.
Like every college event he does is packed out.
But the rest of them are just preaching to a bunch of boomers who love Trump anyway. I don't. Those people are never going to stop voting for Trump. They're never going to stop voting for Republicans. So that's why it's important to distinguish exactly like who all these subgroups are.
Yeah.
The last thing that I just want to say is I don't think it's implausible. Saagar mentioned the Megyn Kelly reporting this week suggesting that her sources inside the administration said that the files had been left in such a way that points to Donald Trump. I don't want to discredit the possibility that there was some funny business going on. What that doesn't do is negate the veracity of the potential file itself. So two things can be true at once, right? That the holdovers at the Justice Department and at the Biden era Justice Department, which, it did have Maureen Comey as part of it. And there are all kinds of people who have despised Trump that were in career positions at Justice and FBI. We all know that. It is not impossible that there was actually some maneuvering behind the scenes to make it more difficult for the Trump administration to release files and to do their transparency without implicating Donald Trump. That's possible. I have no idea what that would look like. Maybe it looks like, leaving the Trump page in that book right at the top and moving the other pages somewhere else. I genuinely don't know. But I just want to say again to people who are listening to that and are deeply suspicious of the intelligence community, two things can be true: that the intelligence community was engaging in significant funny business, and that the Trump letter is real and massively suspicious, and that there are potentially other pieces of information that the administration is sitting on that do implicate Donald Trump. And,
right.
And
again,
lastly,
the easiest way to get around that is just to release it all, and then nobody cares what's on top or whatever. You can reorder it however you want to.
And lastly, I know this is probably a decent teaser for the second half of the show, which is premium. But the reason that we are talking about all of this, and on this show, we try to cover topics that are not the sort of mainstream media outrage bait. The reason that this is important is because there's substantive justice questions, and also it could be affecting our foreign policy literally right now, every single day.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Right.
Well, may every new piece of information be a new wonderful secret. We were talking a lot about all these lawsuits against news media organizations. And that kind of leads us, I think, naturally to this Stephen Colbert thing, which just announced last night that the Late Show with Stephen Colbert has been canceled. Why don't we take a listen to what he has to say right here?
Oh, hey, everybody. We got a great show for you tonight. Senator Adam Schiff was my guest. We harmed on Seven Bridges Road. What a voice. I cried. But before we start the show, I want to let you know something that I found out just last night. Next year will be our last season. The network will be ending The Late Show in May. And yeah, I share your feelings. It's not just the end of our show, but it's the end of The Late Show on CBS. I'm not being replaced. This is all just going away. And I do want to say that the folks at CBS have been great partners. I'm so grateful to the Tiffany Network for giving me this chair and this beautiful theater to call home. And of course, I'm grateful to you, the audience, who have joined us.
And that audience has been growing smaller and smaller by the day. A lot of people, I saw Elizabeth Warren, I saw Adam Schiff after his interview say or question if there was political pressure from the Trump administration behind this cancellation. What do you folks make of this?
I really don't know, because apparently the justification from CBS is that it's no longer financially sustainable. So I'll read here. The genre has experienced a sharp decline in advertising revenue in recent years. In 2018, network late night shows took in $439 million in ad revenue. By last year, the figure had dropped to $220 million, a 50% drop in just 7 years. The cancellation of The Late Show raised immediate questions about the ties to the government's review of Paramount's merger with Skydance or the recent settlement with Mr. Trump. So I think both things could be true. It's convenient to get rid of him. But also, what was Stephen Colbert's salary at The Late Show? Probably $30 million. That's my guess. It's got to be something like that. Let's see. I can't find. Yeah, his annual salary is about $15 million. So if we submit that the total amount of advertising revenue is $220 million, how many late night shows are there? There's the Late Show. There is Kimmel. I don't even know
Kimmel
what
and
the show's
Fallon,
called.
basically.
Kimmel, Fallon. So that's 3 shows. But there's also Daily
And
Show.
Seth Meyers.
Seth Meyers. All those people are all lumped in. So 220 million divided by all those shows. Obviously, it's not equal, but it's like somewhat dispersed. 15 million just for Colbert. Anybody even know what the operating cost for a studio and a staff size of 25 people pulling full corporate bennies? I can kind of see it, right? Like I can see a case where the show doesn't pencil and where at the end of the day, like kind of just not really worth it financially anymore. I also could see, this whole thing. A lot of people are saying that it is about Donald Trump, but shout out to like Klippenstein and others who are like, guys, I'm sorry, like he's not funny. Like it's just a bad show. And I think it's just bad.
He is funny, but he's not funny anymore.
He was.
No, it's heartbreaking.
Give him credit.
The Colbert Report was, cutting edge at the time, and even before
Strangers
that,
with Candy.
Thank you, Emily. Strangers with Candy.
Colbert.
That was cutting edge.
I went to the Rally to Restore Sanity in 2000.
Oh my God.
Front row seat. Yeah. I think I'm actually in a package from Craig Ferguson.
That's awesome.
Because he was going around with it. If anybody wants to pull that clip, I was there.
I don't know when I started doing this, but whatever it is, my student stump speech, when I'm trying to explain what happened to the media, is literally juxtaposing the Colbert Report with Johnny Carson, because I think it's the story of media really neatly. It's like your perfect arc. When Johnny Carson was the king of late night, you're pulling in north of 10 million people every night. And in order to do that, you're competing with two.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. I mean, his tenure was very long, and the genre went through a lot. And so you're competing with basically 2 other networks. And the way to maximize your ad revenue is to appeal to as many Americans as you possibly can. So Carson was not at all apolitical. He talked about politics all the time, but what he was not partisan. So that's because Republicans buy sneakers too, as the saying goes from Michael Jordan. And so at the time, that's the way to beat your competitors, is to just get the biggest slice of the pie. Colbert was the #1 host in late night during the Trump era, Trump 1.0. And actually right now, if you compare him, this is very interesting. Gutfeld is beating him on cable, which would have been unthinkable in the latter Carson era, because first of all, that was a new thing relatively. And secondly, not everybody had cable. So Gutfeld is actually pretty handily destroying everyone else on the cable network. Colbert was #1 in Trump 1.0, despite being the least funny and the most political host. You heard him in that monologue about the show being canceled, that Adam Schiff was his guest. A comedy show with Adam Schiff as the guest. Does that sound appealing to you? No, but the way to win the competition now is the niche. So if you can get Resistance Wine Moms coming back night after night, you have the best shot at selling really specific ads that are easy for the business people to understand and maximizes the audience loyalty, all of that. So what's getting buried in all of this is Colbert said that they're actually retiring, or CBS said they're actually retiring the late night brand. They're retiring the show after he leaves. So that can only mean one thing. Deborah Vance is coming in. No, I'm kidding. But that's what it's like. That's actually, I think, even more significant than Colbert being pushed out, is that they're retiring the franchise of the show. And that show is a staple of Hollywood culture. Griffin's literally in Hollywood, so he can speak more to this. But I think it's possible that Colbert was overpaid and was needling the network over the settlement, and that's the straw that broke the camel's back. But this is not about politics. This has nothing to do with
I totally
politics.
agree. It's like, guys, it's an insane system. It airs at 11:35 p.m. Eastern. To watch interviews live and Colbert's monologue and various sketches. Who the fuck is watching that in 2025? I'm being serious. Like anybody who is remotely interested in comedy, or to the extent that it has any cultural cachet left at all, people are watching it on YouTube or on Twitter the day after. They don't, no one is watching this live. Like they're just not. Maybe some people in California at 8:30 whenever it also happens to air live. Like and there's a great book. I think it's called The Late Shift. I read it a few years ago. It's the history of late night television, and specifically the war between Jay Leno and David Letterman. And people need to understand that it was a very specific moment in time, pre-internet, in which was the only way to get access to comedy as a genre that everybody could experience. It was the platform through which Leno and Letterman could have all of these like guys on and to debut. It goes back to the history of the Tonight Show in the 1970s as like the convening ground. It also was a really good way to get publicity out about a movie. But effectively, like basically the moment YouTube and the internet and all that stuff starts to come around, these shows just become obsolete overnight. I mean, in my opinion, the greatest to ever do it, Conan, he couldn't even make it work. What is Conan doing now? He's a podcast host
and a
like,
very successful podcast host.
And it's
very
great.
Successful podcast.
I love Team Coco. It's a good show. He has great interviews and he gets good guests. But my point is just like that genre of like 25, 30 people on your staff staying up every night to do jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, even Jon Stewart, he's only on the air, guys, once a week, right? Once a week. Like this, that it was just, it was such a specific moment in time that even I don't understand it. I can only read about it for what it was like.
Post-war mass
for
media.
cultural. Yeah, that post 1990s mass media culture right before the internet and YouTube and all that came out. And the only reason it even stayed around was because of all this legacy advertising. But look, the world has moved on. So yeah, if you ask me, that's the main reason is you have to just keep signing these mega deals. You have this massive burn rate, on the show. But I mean, I'm not going to be stupid and deny that it's an easy thing to hand to the Trump administration to also get the Skydance to also get the Paramount Skydance merger. So I think it's both
100%.
But I think that a lot of liberals are really ignoring but guys, the show was bad. Like it was a bad show.
The ratings were bad. And like, I was thinking a lot, Emily mentioned that he was a star in Trump 1.0. And like, we already knew like before Trump won 2024, that the talk show format was dying culturally.
Yeah.
But even I thought that Colbert would get like a shot in the arm from Trump being back, that it would like gin the resistance people back up. But really in my view, like the age range now for the Colbert audience is like 60s and 70s.
Yes.
Yeah. And
exactly.
like, and you'd think that those people, would still just be watching like cable and the old things they're used to. But like, I see like my dad who's in his 60s. I mean, he's looking at TikToks. He's looking at Instagram reels. When I go over to my dad's house, we're not watching cable. He's playing me a YouTube video now. And I really think that like even that age range of like 60s and 70s just have so many more entertaining distractions, and watching a 5-minute interview, like these really short bite interviews with really boring people or like some, Modern Family actor is just not really hitting anymore. And it really goes to show that but the talk show format, I do believe people still like if you revolutionize it, if you make it
Kelly
interesting
Clarkson
again. Like, I'm looking at shows online like Kill Tony is essentially a talk show that gets like hundreds of thousands of live concurrents on YouTube. It's massive. I'm looking at people like the Adam Friedland Show, which is much styled in like a 70s talk show. I do think people still like something about the format, but you have to keep it modern. You have to update it. And, I look at an organization, Saagar mentioned the 25 employees probably on the writing staff, the massive crew, and they saw the ratings go down for years and they refused to innovate. I mean, I've worked at a lot of media companies where the writing's on the wall. The downward trajectory is obvious, and they just don't update. They don't modernize with the times. There was a way for them to save this show. They could have brought in new writers. They could have cleared house. They could have made it interesting and changed things. But when you're in that level of Hollywood, like cemented tradition, it's almost impossible unless someone gives you the mandate to go in and kind of fire everyone, hire new staff, and like challenge the format. I think it was savable, but I just think people they're just
totally
in their
agree.
own ways. Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is the problem. They don't know how to streamline. They don't know how to, innovate or any of that for the future. And by the way, this is coming for all the legacy franchises.
This is a sign that they are coming to it lately.
I think it's too baked in. The burn rate's too high. For example, my prediction, Saturday Night Live, it'll be dead in 10 years. That's my prediction.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. I just mean
maybe if Lauren dies, like that's when it'll die. I just think at this point, NBC is just keeping it around for whatever say. I don't know.
No, they're 10 years
emeritus, some sort of emeritus thing. And then when Lauren is gone, they're like, look, let's just end the show. I mean, there's no point. Like, it's not good anymore.
It becomes a clip show. I mean, it already has become a clip show. Yeah, basically. Right. But I think they're realizing this a decade too late. And that's why I think one of like my hottest takes ever is that CNN Plus was actually a good idea. I mean, they executed it
That's
horribly.
Very hot.
It's a hot take.
Well,
it's a sizzling
I understand
hot
what
take.
You're trying to say.
The concept,
That's
shouldn't have been abandoned because Fox News invested early in Fox Nation. Whatever you think about it, it's now a huge part of the Fox News business. And that's because they were able to bring people in with these documentaries and subscriptions and blah, blah, blah. That makes up for the fact that even, so Gutfeld's trouncing Colbert, okay, but that's 3 million people on average watching Gutfeld a night. It doesn't compare to the 10 million or the 5 million that you would have had on a late night show a long time ago. So anyway, all that is just to say that a lot of these networks are 10 years too late and are trying to adapt. They're just doing it in a very poor way, and they're doing it late.
And to the SNL point, just because SNL was mentioned, and I am a sicko, and I still watch every episode of SNL. I watch every single sketch. There's at least one good sketch an episode, but you got to suffer through a lot. I say get rid of Lorne, bring in Tina Fey, and let Tina Fey.
I agree with that take.
Whoa.
Great take.
Let Tina Fey revolutionize the show. Let her update it for the next era. I do think there's a ton of life there. Anyways, if you're listening to NBC, 30 Rock.
Yeah, Tina, if you're listening, we love you. Tina is on the record as having burner accounts. So in my fantasy, she does listen.
Incredible.
I love Tina Fey. Perhaps the most lib thing about me.
Nothing better than 30 Rock.
Oh
absolutely.
My God, it's so good.
To this day,
the greatest network show of all time. All
and Baldwin is just incredible the entire time on that. But yeah, why don't we kick it over to the second half now for premiums, folks? We're going to be talking. We're going to be answering AMA questions. We're going to be talking about a little bit of the Vatican and Israel. And we're also going to be releasing exclusively, first for premium subscribers, a one-on-one interview between Saagar and Schulz that was recorded outside of the Schulz episode, where Saagar asks, does he regret voting for Trump, the vibe check on JD Vance, and more. You can check all that out by signing up at breakingpoints.com today, and you'll get it in your email inbox. We'll see you on the other side.
All right, everybody, welcome to the premium part of our Friday show. We had an important news story that we wanted to update all of you on that. There's a lot, I think, to say about it here. Israel's conduct in Gaza, this time involving an attack on a Catholic church. So, Griffin, can you go ahead and put some of the details of that up on the screen? So, what we have here, and everybody stick with us, is that Netanyahu and the new pope have spoken over an hour after a Gaza church strike. Now, the circumstances of that strike are pretty crazy. So, Griffin, can you find a photo of it or something just so we can show
let's look.
What happened? So, effectively, what has happened here is that the IDF, and it appears to be a tank, killed 3 people and injured several others, including the father or chaplain of the church inside of the Gaza Strip. It's called the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, which oversees the small parish. And what they say is that multiple people inside of the church were actually killed. Like I said, the chaplain himself was also injured. And they say that number of injured and many were in critical condition. The circumstances surrounding this are absolutely insane. The IDF is currently claiming that an initial inquiry says that fragments from a shell fired during operational activity in the area hit the church mistakenly, and that the cause of the incident was under review. But we do have some reports from inside the Catholic community, actually, that is not what they think, at the very least. So do we have the Pillar report? Do one of you guys have that?
Yeah, I'll pull it up
Emily,
right
maybe
here.
Can you break it down for us and contextualize what the Pillar is?
Yeah, the Pillar is a sort of niche Catholic publication that does some genuinely good reporting. So
They do good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a reliable source here, and they have, you can see in this report, they have sourcing. They're here. This is from Cardinal Pizzaballa, which people may remember from the conclave era, because Pizzaballa was a leading candidate. He's one of the more conservative cardinals. And that's why some of the sort of Tradcath gang wanted Pizzaballa in addition to just his name. But
come on.
That's the kind of wing that he comes from. So I think that makes that actually extra interesting that this is the sourcing in the Pillar piece here. So you can see Griffin has it up on the screen. It says, so it says sources close to the Patriarch's Chancery told the Pillar Thursday that some officials believe the strike could be a deliberate act of retaliation after Christian leaders recently condemned Israeli settler attacks on a West Bank Christian town. And people may remember that attack from, we covered it extensively a couple of weeks ago. It was an utter rampage. It was the footage and the videos and the pictures, the images from what happened in that town. It was a rampage. It was just a really, really grim and grisly scene. And so this is sourcing from people close to, as it says, the Chancery, that say they believe it. And one of the best sources of information in these, Saagar, you know this very well, in these types of situations, these types of conflicts or skirmishes, is often churches, whether they're Christian or whether they're mosques, because they have staff on the ground. And often acting in like a humanitarian capacity, and typically are blended into the community and have a decent idea of what's happening. So this is a very, very interesting report.
Yeah, and what they say is they think it was intentional because of calling out Israeli settler violence on Christians, and after, of course, we had the previous strikes on multiple churches inside of the Gaza Strip. By the way, it is all part of an escalating and very interesting new report here about a feud between Mike Huckabee and Israel over welcoming Christian Zionists. So I'm going to go ahead and put this up here on the screen because it's absolutely fascinating. So as people who've heard me talk about Israel before, if you're an American and you're on your way to Israel, about 90% of your plane are going to be Christian evangelicals on their way to Jerusalem. Maybe 95%. They're going to be people who may have never even left the country before, but they're going to Jerusalem to go see the Holy Land, which is great. That's their right. They can do what they like. But all of it is organized usually by these Christian Zionist organizations, which, have the end times theology and all of that. And they go and they view like where the apocalypse is all supposed to happen, as well as the churches in Bethlehem, etc. Everybody gets what I'm saying. Well, this is a key part of the U.S.-Israel relationship. These are the people who are the most diehard. Well, Mike Huckabee is now revealing that Israel is actually discriminating against visas for these very same Christian Zionists. And Huckabee threatens to declare Israel does not welcome Christians as a visa row blows open. So let's look at the details. A threat was issued in a letter that Huckabee sent on Wednesday to the Interior Minister, which was leaked to Hebrew media. Huckabee threatened to order his embassy to take reciprocal measures against Israeli tourists. Huckabee's longstanding support of Israel and close ties with the current government, the rhetoric is represented a shocking deterioration. The issue at hand, the ability of Christian groups to tour Israel, is close to Huckabee's heart, given he has led countless such trips as an evangelical pastor over the last half century. The back and forth comes after 2 months to discuss problems encountered by Christian Zionists entering Israel. It is with great distress I write to you my profound disappointment that the meeting held in your office has not resulted in what I hoped would be a simple resolution of the routine granting of visas for Christian organizations or workers has been practiced for decades. So what they cite is that the organizations are now required to, quote, complete lengthy questionnaires and that they still have not received new visas for religious travels. And effectively what it's coming out is he is alleging Christian organizations and their representatives are engaging in harassment and negative treatment towards organizations with long-standing relationships and positive involvement towards Zionism and the friendship of the Jewish people and the state of Israel.
This is the ninth front.
Yeah.
This opened up 8, but this is the 9th.
Guys, what is so crazy is that from what I can gather, it's that they are screening these people, quote, to make sure that they prove to be no threat and are taking a strong stance of support for Israel and the Jewish people are encountering these obstacles. They simply want to extend their support for Israel and understand the Jewish. But from what I can gather, their beef is that they're worried that these people are going to proselytize inside of Israel, and they don't want anybody in who seeks to convert Israeli citizens and or is worried that they're not sufficiently pro-Israel enough.
Okay,
so
Emily, explain that to me.
That's where we're at now.
Is there a lot of conversion happening in Israel? Like, is there a lot of that happening where they're trying to convert people? I mean, like, it seems like, how does Israel fumble the evangelical bag so badly here? I mean, Mike Huckabee is like been one of the biggest Israel sycophants, like in America that we know of, like one of the biggest friends. So it's like, how do they fumble this bad? Is this really an actual reason that there's too much they're trying to spread the good word too much in Israel? Is that real?
No. And let's just put some of these images I'm going to share. This is from a couple of weeks back, but you can see this user on X. This is video from, I don't actually know how to pronounce it, Tebe, which is the last like fully Christian town in the West Bank. You can see Christians reacting to what they're looking at in this type of footage. And here's more. This is from actually EWTN, so the Catholic network. And I'm just going to mute it so that you can just focus on and looking at what happened. So all of this is to say, I think what's really going on behind the scenes is that the Likud and Netanyahu and their allies are frightened by the what's the best way to put it, the obvious discomfort that people in the evangelical community are starting to have with the war, whether it's in Gaza or the West Bank. And it's been however many years we are into this war, where the public broadly early started to the public support early started to erode 6 months into the war, and now it's even happening on the right, and you can see this showing up in polling. But also there's a paranoia, I think, among Likud and their allies that what they're witnessing is a divorce, that this bear hug that could potentially, the bear hug that has always existed between evangelicals, millenarian evangelicals, and Likud and the Israeli far right is threatened because people in America are influenced by populism, and they're starting to see these attacks on Christian areas. So I think that's what's going on. They're trying to draw a red line and say, we will not tolerate dissent. You are with us or you are against us. That will probably backfire. It seems like a misread of American politics and the right. Just the tiniest bit of background on Mike Huckabee. He has, I think, been pretty careful in the past not to go full what's called pre-millenarian dispensationalist. And that's, you believe that you have to support the Israeli government, the current state of Israel. You read it into the Bible. Saagar was talking to Tucker Carlson about this recently. You read into prophecies and scripture where it says Israel, it means the political state of Israel right now. And if you do that, then yeah, it is kind of you're with us or against us. But Huckabee has obviously been having some difficulty recently with the way the political nation of Israel is conducting itself. And I don't think the bear hug is going anywhere, but I do also think this is sort of a misread of American politics from Netanyahu.
I agree. I also think, people forget this, but a lot of these church groups often cross into the West Bank to go to Bethlehem. That's very common on the stop. And it's like, hey, they cross over there and they start talking to some Christian Palestinians.
Yes.
Might not be a great look for you, huh?
Yep.
Yep.
Not always, may not, maybe, but inconvenient, some of the things that they may see over there.
Tucker infuriated the Israeli right when he had one of the pastors from Bethlehem. His name is Smither.
Oh, I remember him.
Like that. He's Lutheran. But
I won't give
Tucker
too
had
many
him
things
on.
away, but there's something else coming on that front on the Tucker Carlson show, which I think people will find very interesting if you do find this subject.
That's for the second paywall, the elite paywall after this paywall.
To be clear, that does not exist. But if it did, that's where it would go.
I'm just saying, I was informed that there's something else coming on that front.
It's just shocking because like the evangelicals have been such good friends to Israel. And it seems like if you're still a lot of people who are still down with Israel in that community, like it seems almost impossible to be a friend to Israel for anyone at this point right now. Like, I just don't know how they're even losing these guys.
I know. It's that is the thing. They demand total and complete fealty.
Exactly.
Is that they're from Gates? Gates has been doing great.
This is Matt Gates, all caps. How many Americans do Israeli settlers have to kill before we care? And so you can see this is engendering why this would be engendering paranoia among Likud and Netanyahu. And I think that's probably what the best explanation is for this. Because again, like it's ham-fisted and clumsy and it's a misread of American politics. But to the point that Saagar is just going to lay out better than I ever could, it's fealty. It's with us or against us. Yeah, that's it. That's all it's all about. All right, should we hit the AMA?
Let's do it.
Before we throw to the Andrew Schulz interview?
Absolutely. So we've got a few AMA questions here. Saagar and Emily, this comes from Chris Hazlett. Based on his vast potential intelligence connections, friendship with Trump, and the circumstances and inconsistencies surrounding his demise, do you think it's possible Epstein was extracted from prison and sent back to Israel? I really appreciate you
Sent back to
and
Israel?
Perspectives.
Okay, listen. It's not as crazy as it sounds, because in the missing minutes of the video, it's like 3 minutes total, right? That are missing. That's not really enough time, in my opinion, to strangle somebody to death. Epstein was a bigger guy, and to kill him and then come in and out. It's definitely enough time to leave the cell, though. But no, obviously, I don't think that's what happened, considering the autopsy, etc. But that is a leading theory as a result of it.
Well, didn't Epstein?
I see how people get
Israel.
there. I see how
didn't Epstein say in Israel though that he was like, I might stay here during like his first kind of flare up with the law, that he was like, I can't be extradited if I stay in Israel.
In 2007, he fled to Israel and transferred all of his money to Israel before the sweetheart non-prosecution agreement was struck. So just putting that out there, he felt safe there. He always has.
Yep. You got to go to your safe space. So this one's for Emily from Brian Meehan. Emily, how did you meet Megyn Kelly? Would love to hear some BTS on how you created After Party, which, by the way, everyone go subscribe to After Party, the hottest late night talk show replacing Stephen Colbert.
I ended Colbert. I think that's actually what happened. So Megan actually just randomly started listening to a podcast I used to host, Federalist Radio Hour. I think it was after NBC. It may have been before NBC, and she, for some reason, just really liked it and started getting in touch and having me on her show. And so it's just as simple as that. She started listening to the show, and we just got in touch that way. So it's kind of random, unexciting story, but that's how it happened. And After Party came about. They were starting the network. To bring in new people and have a whole podcast network, basically. So that was just, again, like, it's actually all very straightforward. They're like, hey, you've been a guest on the show. We really like you. Mike really likes you. Let's do something fun. And so that's the backstory.
Gotcha. All right. I got another one here for Saagar. This is from Matthew Redabaugh. Saagar, Tucker mentioned in an interview with you two that he underpaid you while at the Daily Caller.
That's for damn sure.
And this was And this was brought up again on Flagrant. What are your opinions on low pay entry level work as time has passed? Do you think you were paid unfairly? Do you think the FLSA needs an update?
Ooh, that's
so
a great
funny.
question. Was I paid unfairly? This is going to be a hot take. No.
Yeah,
And I'll
I
tell
agree
you
with you.
why.
Wow.
At the end of the day, you know, Scott Galloway, who I have a lot of issues with, has some great rants about this. If you're entering, everyone wants to be in sexy businesses like journalism, news, Hollywood. I mean, Griffin, I don't think that my entry level salary was probably all that different than an OG CAA mailroom intern or
No.
assistant.
Well, that's bad too.
Right?
That's bad
No,
too.
I'm not saying it is bad, but at the end of the day, this is a market-based environment. You have a massive oversupply of people who are
Want to do it.
highly educated and who want to do something, and then you have an extremely small group of slots. And by the way, even to get that slot, holy I have never worked harder in my life than just to even get my initial shots at the Daily Caller and to get onto television. It was like a knife fight, and meeting, and just like it took years and years and meeting people and building up credibility and all of that. And the number of people who are around you at that time who are working to do the exact same thing as you is huge. Like, it's hundreds, thousands of people. So my very hot market-based take is no, because there would have been 10 people who would have accepted that job if I hadn't accepted that job. So they probably could have paid me less. And I did negotiate my salary up.
I guess some people.
I was gonna say they used to pay even less.
Yeah, right. So some people's, I guess, counter argument to that, and I see this happen a little bit more in the creative industries, but you could maybe apply this to just news and media in general. But a lot of people say, for instance, in CAA Hollywood or Hollywood writers' rooms, that basically when an entry level pay is low enough, essentially that means that only rich kids can do it because they can kind of afford to get their mommy and daddy to help them pay the rent. I mean, if you're working in a CAA mailroom, you're probably either living in your car or you're getting help from mom and dad.
100%.
And that's creates a very selective pool that creates a very select and small amount of perspectives, which gives maybe less interesting or less diverse stories. And I mean diverse in a general sense, in a class sense,
I know what
any
you're
kind
saying.
of poor person versus someone who came up from a private high school and then, is instantly in one of these mailroom jobs. So do you think that to me is true in Hollywood? Could you say the same in news and media?
There's no question it's true. It is obviously the case. Why could I do that? Because my parents paid for my college and I didn't have any student debt. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm pretty open about it. And here's the thing, people always hate when it's always kind of been that way. Hollywood and the creative industries have always kind of been a place for people to go into who are children of the upper middle class. There's a good John Adams quote where he was my father was a farmer, so I could be a lawyer so that my son could study his letters, or something I think Greek philosophy or something like that. But even Adams saw himself as a practitioner. It was kind of low class at that time to be a lawyer, even though you're upper class, but you're not George Washington sitting on, a vast estate of slaves and people paying your rent. Right. My point is just, that's kind of always how these very elite industries have always been. Journalism, and I think this is a fair critique, is it didn't used to be that way. It actually kind of used to be more of a yeoman's industry. But and I've heard Taibbi and other people talk about this, but my pushback is that is a local journalism phenomenon. Washington journalism, guys, it's always been this way. All right. I have a bunch of books behind me. One of them is called The Georgetown Set, which is basically about, the modern media environment of the 1950s and 60s. And it's those people were filthy rich. They were the George H.W. Bushes, of their time, multi-millions of the people who were the cultural tastemakers. I actually would think it's a little bit more competitive today than it ever was before, because at that time, if you didn't go to Yale or Harvard and you weren't rich, you're not getting in, period. I'm talking about national media specifically, not about local journalism, because those are two very important distinctions. So look, it's not fair. It's definitely not fair, but I don't really know what a corrective to it is.
I'll say I think conservative media is also a little bit different than if you're outside. And
Sure.
conservative media pays even worse for entry-level positions and tends to self-select for people who are like more contrarian, anti-establishment. Like, you're not getting the cocktail, but you're not getting the White House correspondent dinner invitations that you are if you're an entry-level person at ABC. Like, you just, it's a little bit different. It's you tend to put up with little pay and a lot of like criticism and ostracization and stigma. It's not that bad. You're not like a pariah, but it's not quite the same as if you're entry level at like ABC News or Washington Post.
Yeah, but by the way, man, oh my, so that ABC job may pay a little bit more. If you think my job was hard to get, you want to get an opening job at ABC News, you better have like a 4.0 GPA. You better have the right color of your skin.
And know someone.
Yeah, you better know somebody who knows somebody. And you got to be DEI check. You got to have a great GPA. You better have done some college work. You got to know somebody. Your parents better be somebody, because those line producer jobs, to be Jake Tapper's number 2, like little 22-year-old minion, good Lord, the amount of sweat that's going to take you have no idea. So like, honestly, even what I'm talking about was more accessible compared to what those folks do. That's a whole other level.
And let's say that you don't want to go through that mailroom route or what have you, and you want to do this new thing happening, which is independent media. You want to do TikTok, you want to do YouTube. There's still, even if you're crushing it, you understand the platform, you understand and find a niche, there's still potentially 3 to 5 years where you're making no money and probably losing money.
Yeah, probably more.
And it's like, I kind of call it. So I guess everyone, in mainstream or independent, you kind of have that top ramen period where like that's all you can afford to eat. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that would get.
Look, this is depressing, but it's just true. We live in a highly competitive global marketplace, especially on YouTube. Remember that it's not just American; it's the entire globe that you're working with. That's right. It's 1% of all podcasts make 99% of the money. Everybody keep that in mind. 1% make 99% of the money. So that's what you have to do. So like, do you have what it takes to be in the top 1% of what you're doing? And I'm not tooting our horns too much, but I think we're in the top. I mean, by definition, we're in the top 1% of what we're doing if you look at the charts and all of that. And Griffin, you're aware it's a lot of blood and sweat and tears and work and shit that a lot of people do not want to do. And you have to do it consistently for years and years and years and years on end. And you have to get crazy lucky. You have to do all that, and you have to get insanely lucky. And it'd be ridiculous to sit here and say it's all because of your hard work. No, I know a lot of people who work hard. Most of them didn't make it. Almost all of them didn't make it. We're all very, very lucky even just to be here and be employed. And so,
100%.
You got to recognize that as well. But yeah, people should be honest about it. It's not easy. And yeah, I recommend people watch the Galloway stuff. He's got some really good stuff about. He's like, he teaches a class in NYU, and he'll be like, what do you guys expect to make? And they'll be like $300,000. And he's like, that puts you in the top 1%. And he's like, so if you want to do that, you got to be really good at what you do. Like, everyone just be honest, about what the market and how it works is. And that's not changing anytime soon.
You got to love it. So I got 2 more questions here. First from Sam. Do you guys think that Newsom has a chance at the presidency? I lean liberal, and I'm worried that he'll get it. He's been a bit disappointment, but with his battle against Trump now, it seems like a strong possibility. Side note, I met him when I worked in politics in college, and he's a jerk.
Yep. That only confirms that he's definitely got what it takes. I'm serious. Gavin there are only 2 Democrats on the national stage right now, in my opinion, who have the black hole inside of them that is required to run for president, where you have to give it everything, all of yourself. It's unfillable. You need the public attention. Greasy Gavin and Pete Buttigieg. Those are the only 2 that have the whole, like, this is ideology and policy and all that aside. I'm talking, it's a genuine personality. You need a mental illness to like want to do this. Absolutely. Not only to like want to be narcissistic enough to think you deserve it, but to actually put up with the modern media environment of what it takes. And Gavin has it. He loves the podcast. He loves the game. Pathological.
Yep.
He just loves it. Yeah, he has a pathological love of fighting with Sean Hannity and going on these podcasts like Sean Ryan and like calling out Joe Rogan. And now He's the one posting all these memes and TikToks. I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's actually going pretty viral. He's doing pretty well. You have to give credit where it's due. He's got all of his anti-Trump content, which is cooking online. I don't think it's good. It's cringe, but that's how it works. Yeah. But that's what sells. Let's be honest. So I think Gavin is extremely formidable. I mean, it would be a mistake to write off the governor and the political talent required to be the chief executive of the fourth largest economy in the world, which is the state of California, which is governed by some 40 million people. I mean, you just can't, it would be really dumb, to look past that. And California has always loomed large in our politics, and I think it should for that reason.
I like how Griffin just looked around as if to see if Gavin Newsom was listening. Like, okay. The way that I think of Gavin,
he's clearing a homeless encampment outside right now.
Yeah, he's right.
That's why he's going to win. See, that's the other thing. He believes nothing. He'll say anything.
Well,
that's why
this is what I was just going to say. The way I think of him is it's two prongs. So the first prong he has absolutely down pat, and maybe it'll be enough because he'll likely be able to raise a lot of money. And it is, he is smart enough to know where the political winds are blowing. He is not principled enough to execute on it in a sort of resonant way. But just having that first part may be enough for him. So like he understood that it was good for him to go on Charlie Kirk and start taking some L's and say, we were wrong about this, this, and this, because he looks at the podcast environment and says, people are looking for something a little bit more authentic, something a little more ad lib, something a little more humble. But he doesn't have the principle to like follow through on that and look like he is a believably humble public servant. So having just the one prong might be enough, especially if you're going up against a really, really unlikable Republican or a weak field of Democrats and you raise an F ton of money and consolidate votes. He's formidable. I think I agree.
But between him and Buttigieg, who do you think inches that out in the primary?
Gavin. I think Gavin's
I'd say Buttigieg.
Talented.
Wow.
I think Gavin's more talented.
Interesting.
He's got a real political organization. He's a governor of California. It's just different. It's bigger.
Yeah, sure. He wasn't the mayor of South Bend.
All right.
Well, that leads me finally to our final question of the AMA this week from Jose P. Is Tucker going to run for president? Some of the speeches that have been highlighted on your show, I've started to get the impression he has concepts of a plan to run. Now, I had this argument recently on another YouTube channel that I was on where they thought that Tucker was going to run. And I just said, I don't see that like in his personality. I mean, like, I don't know him, but like from
he
what
has
I've seen, and, like he doesn't seem like he has the social battery to want to do something like that. Like he lives up in Maine by himself, like, like far away. And it just seemed like he kind of has like everything he wants already.
Yeah, he's addressed this before. He's like, I think the people should just stick to what they're good at. I talk for a living. I think I'm really good at it. And that's all I'm going to do. That I don't have what it takes to be president. I don't want to be president. I actually don't think he has the personality to be president, exactly like you said, because to have the personality to be president, you actually have to be willing to spend 95% of your time with people who you fucking hate and don't like, because you're always trying to win them over. But, you never really get to surround yourself with the people who you do like, because you don't need them. You have to surround yourself with the people who you don't like. This is the pathology of Bill Clinton and of Obama. I'm serious. I mean, listen, these guys admit all this shit out in the open. Like Clinton loved to have Air Force One and to have all these congressmen who disagreed with him, and he would give them rides on the airplane, and he'd sit there and he'd convince them. Obama was a little bit different. He was not as social, but he still needed the attention. He needed the love. He needed the affirmation, of the media, stuff like that.
He needed Hollywood to like him.
He needed Hollywood. There's a great story, I think, of for Obama's like 50th or 60th birthday. I forget what it was. He like rescinded the invite of like David Axelrod, like one of his longest personal advisors, I think
some of the Beyonce guys got booted.
Yeah,
it was like
too. It was like his closest advisors didn't get invited, but like Beyonce got to go. It's like that is who he is. All right, just so everybody understands.
And that's who you have to be.
And you have to be.
I think it was Brian Williams who said that. I'm pretty sure it's Brian Williams of all people who said, having interviewed all of these presidents, he was like, there's something, you have to admit it, just by virtue of wanting to be president of the United States, there's something off with every single one of those guys.
They're crazy. And by the way, this is true of all high-powered people in business. I've never met a normal billionaire, not one, ever. They're weird. Okay, you have to be. There's only there's a pathology up here of what it takes to get there. Elon, it's funny, with Elon, I reread a biography of Thomas Edison. They're the same person. They're fucking weirdos. Like
That's
Thomas
high
Edison.
praise.
No, but they have the same mentality, like where Edison near the end of his life is like only drinking milk, like he doesn't drink water, is like a complete freak. Like, Henry Ford is the same way, where like he gets these delusions of grandeur and becomes this crazy anti-Semite and like wants to run the world governments and stuff. Like they're all kind of the same in each of their categories. They have unique ways of expressing it, but like there's something there.
And Edison also did get the ultimate high score in Diablo 4. So there's a lot of similarities between Elon and Edison.
Funny. People do forget that, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, people forget that. Well, that was our AMA. Hopefully, we've decided who the next president will be. So thank you guys all for submitting your questions. We're going to end today's episode with a little exclusive, not yet released interview between Saagar and Andrew Schulz. Now, you did a full 3-hour Andrew Schulz Epstein dive, which I just watched last night, and it was really, I feel like, really useful because we've heard a lot of these facts before, but it's been a few years and it all starts to fade, and it's nice to have it all kind of like an encyclopedia kind of like wrapped together again. So I highly recommend everyone go check out that interview. But what did you want to talk about with Schulz in this section that we can tell people about before we play?
This was more about reflections on the Trump interview, the vibe shift, some pushback on immigration and whether it's really all that unexpected what Trump is doing on immigration, some Zoran Mamdani stuff and how Democrats could win back the podcast guys and that demographic. And then finally, whether JD Vance, quote, passes the vibe check or not.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right.
Really good.
Well, let's see that vibe check. Thank you, folks, for subscribing, and we will see you on Monday.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Breaking Points, but this time it is being filmed in the Flagrant 2 studio here with the entire crew. Thank you guys so much for actually letting me use your studio after we recorded just a great episode, and it's really good to be with all of you.
Absolutely, my man.
All right, so I wanted to do this. Both Crystal and I have been wanting to talk to you guys for a while, kind of a reflection of Podcast Bro and the election. Andrew, you specifically have come under a lot of fire recently as the Podcast Bro, the guy who like led the way for Trump, but now is apparently having some regrets.
You don't know that? So, Trump had no support until Andrew said he was going to vote.
It's funny, I know.
He was like going to lose.
Okay, but let's put it this way. I wouldn't say it swung the election, but I also wouldn't say that it wasn't not unimportant to have Trump on all of these, right? And this is just part of like kind of that segment of the audience. And so my question is that in retrospect, do you wish that you would handle the Trump interview differently?
No,
now
not
that
at all.
you've seen how.
No,
so go into
not at all.
that a little bit.
No,
Okay.
I don't regret a single thing like about it. I don't know why that. Like, I don't even know where the question comes from.
Well, the question comes from an idea that was a lot of criticism from the, quote, independent or not non-independent media. And they were like, well, Trump is going on these podcasts to kind of whitewash his reputation and basically to not face like, quote, tough journalistic questions.
Yeah, it just depends what your expectation of journalism is. And I think that like, I mean, you can speak to this a lot, but I was speaking to David Marchese at the New York Times about this.
Yeah, so I read your interview with him.
Yeah, so it's like, and there were some moments where he was like asking me some questions, and I was like, this is where things feel a little bit gotcha, because he was assuming that I talked to Bernie about one thing that I didn't talk to Trump about, and I'm like, but when did I talk to Bernie about it? And he's like, well, I can't exactly say it. I'm like, well, that's kind of where it feels gotcha, because you're coming in with a specific intention.
Yeah, that's right.
So like, and I actually think that he was like really fair, and that was a great interview, but like, an example of like my least favorite type of journalism, just the most low-hanging fruit, is like the girl that interviewed Tim Dillon. It's not really an interview. It's like an indictment. It's like, I think this thing of you, and I seek to prove that to my audience. I'm not coming here with any curiosity. So like, we don't see ourselves as like, I can't speak for the guys, but like as journalists so much to say it's just like people that are having conversations that we're curious with. Now, I understand that when you get a lot of people listening, like, you should, like, if you're a responsible person, like, think about like what you owe, I guess, to the audience and have that discussion. That's fair. And don't get me wrong. But like, I don't subscribe to this idea that like, you have to ask these hard questions that you're not curious about, or people that watch will criticize you. It's like, you don't have to watch.
Sure.
if you're in front of me, I'm going to ask you the things that I'm curious about. People are like, why don't you ask him about Epstein? I'm like, oh, so he can give the same fucking answer he's given for the last 2 decades? It's like, he's not going to immediately sit down with me and then after 3 questions be like, we used to fuck them kids. Like that's not how these things work. So like, for me, I think one of the reasons for the rise in podcasting opposed to like normal or traditional media is that you have people asking questions that they're authentically interested in instead of asking questions that like they think that their boss wants them to ask or they're worried their base wants to ask. Because now you're not even curious in the questions you're asking them out of fear of retribution from your audience, and now you're captured by your audience instead of your own curiosity.
And I would also say, absolutely. There are, at that point, in the polls, they were actually neck and neck, and Trump always overperforms in polls. So I don't know what impact we actually had, but there were 2 candidates left for president of the United States. I don't want to talk to both of them. I want to talk to both of them. And second of all, there's things we all talked about that we wanted to ask Trump, but I could do the thing that feels really good where I ask a gotcha question and I dunk on you, and then he gets up and he walks off and he says, go fuck yourself. I know, I've seen enough interviews with this guy to know I have to relate to him on a human level, and then when he feels safe, maybe he'll answer the questions I want to ask. Are you going to run for a 3rd term? Are you willing to tone down the rhetoric? I got to ask those questions, but you had to get to the point where he's willing to answer those questions.
Sure. Yeah.
So I could have done the thing that feels good and dunked on him, but we would have gotten absolutely nowhere.
And who does it feel?
And that's a
good
tactical
for?
thing. No, it's important.
You just have to have the things that you want to ask and ask him. And I had 3 things I wanted to ask him about. I asked him about those 3 things.
Okay.
And that was it.
Right.
Yeah. I will say my only wish is that Kamala came on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, that's really
to me, it seems like a Nixon Humphreys thing where like, they have the laugh-in moment and Nixon does it and it turns out great. And that it was a strategic blunder from their side to not go on to these, non-traditional platforms.
Alex, anything?
Same. Ditto what Mark said.
Well, I think the question then is...
If we have Kamala on, you really can't say anything because we're going to ask Kamala the same questions. We're going to have the same curiosity.
We're going to laugh with her.
Yeah.
We're going to make her look like a human.
Exactly. And the authentic curiosity is going to shine through. And if she bombs the interview, that's on her. If she does great, that's on her, just like with Trump. But we're going to ask the things that we're curious about. And I think that like the numbers show that if you look at anything from Rogan, you look at anything to like Alex Cooper, it's not just this right-wing thing. There's a left wing. When people are asking the questions that they're curious about, the interviews are indulged far more. When they're doing puff piece things, like when Alex Cooper had Kamala on, nobody gives a fuck about it. And I think that tells you everything you want.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. But if we were to flip it around, if Trump were to come back today, which we hope he will, right?
Yeah.
I hope you guys put
talk to him again.
your ask. They put a statement out about you guys. Would it be different tonally this time around? Now that you've actually had him in office, and would you feel how would you feel as somebody then who had been critical of him walking into that? Like tonally, would it be different in terms of the tenor that you might take and asking a follow-up question?
Here's the thing. And we said this before. I'm not in one of your fucking cults. I'm not in the right wing cult, the left wing cult. I'm a free American, and I'll ask whatever fucking questions I want to ask. Okay, so for me, when somebody's in power, that's not when you relax, especially if it's a person that you voted for. That's where you hold them to their promises. So Trump comes back on, which he's absolutely invited to come back on. He's the leader of the free world. I want to know what's up with the Epstein shit. You campaigned hard, your boys campaigned hard, your girls campaigned hard on it. I want to know why we're not seeing it. And why I want to know why you were so flippant about it. So I want to know that. I want to know what's going on with the foreign wars. And specifically, is diplomacy harder than you thought? And what are the restrictions to your power when it comes to diplomacy? And you've been president already, you must know that diplomacy is difficult. Why do you think it would be easier this time around? And what are the hiccups? So I want to know these things, but it's not about a different tenor or anything like that. When you're running for president, it's hope. What will you do? You're selling me dreams. Sure. Right? Yeah. And when you are president, it's delivery. And delivery is way harder than hope. You know what I mean? I loved Obama. I voted for him. I was so excited about Obama. I know that you're not a big fan. But to me, yes. And it's he sold us hope so well. Some people will be like, he underdelivered on that hope. Some people will be like, he overdelivered. It was amazing to see what he got accomplished. If you ask anybody who had pre-existing conditions, I think that they're pretty fucking happy, Republican or Democrat, what he was able to put through. So to me, that's what it's all about. It's just and if you're not willing to hold the person that you voted for to the standards that they expected, then you're not a real person that cares about what's happening in America.
Right. Yeah.
If you were one of these people that refused to acknowledge that Biden was senile for 4 years.
Yeah.
Like, and now you're lecturing me about holding Trump accountable. I think that you need to take like a long look in the mirror about what you're willing to do for the people that you voted for.
I think it's a very, very fair question. Do you guys have anything you want to add on that?
To add to that, the questions would be tougher because we are disappointed in what we're seeing.
Sure.
But the tenor of the question still has to be asked in a way that I feel confident you will answer.
Okay.
If it's, hey man, what the fuck are you doing? This bullshit ass thing. This sucks.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to answer that question?
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, that's more at the people who,
Yeah, well, what I'm doing is I'm like imbibing, there isn't even like independent media. So like the left independent media that I have been able to interact with, they have a theory that the podcast guys were basically taken for a ride. Like they're looking at it as, look, Trump knew that he wasn't going to get asked anything that he might get on NBC News or anywhere else. He basically wanted to use the audience to convince them that he was a normal dude and get them to vote for him. And that in retrospect,
Isn't that what every politician does?
Well, I agree. I'm just getting to that point.
Yeah.
So it's like to the extent that you think that happened, like it's not a complicity question. It's really more about a question of how do you balance that in the art of politics. I think you guys are more forgivable, if that makes sense, in that critique, because you actually have had on a lot of people. But I'm saying, speaking generally, like to the Theo Von and Joe Rogan and Nelk Boys and all of the podcast, the Bussin', podcast, and all Bussin' with the Boys and all of that. Like he obviously used that to some political advantage, and now many of those people are upset. And they're not necessarily as willing as you to kind of speak out against that or to invite the other side.
Who is upset?
Well, I'm saying so. Some of the people who privately have had on these people may be upset at the thing.
Another
that Trump has
podcaster
done.
might be upset with Trump, but
but they're not as willing right now, to be able to say it, or they have to couch their criticisms, maybe less so than you have. So, like, how do you look at it, like, generally?
For me personally, I'm curious. I've heard so much things about Trump from the media. Oh, he's this, he's that. But seeing him in person in long form, he has less of an opportunity to bullshit us. Like once you're talking for a good amount of time, you can start to gauge. And I wanted to really know who he was. And I got a sense he was much sharper than I thought he was. Like he's
incredibly sharp.
He's aware of everything going on.
He's a media creature.
Yeah, so it's like that.
It's actually amazing to watch.
To me, anybody who wouldn't want to speak to somebody who's former president and potentially the next
You're
president.
not a serious person.
Yeah, like it doesn't make any sense.
No, we're not talking about, this isn't a platforming argument.
No, but they're saying that they might have used us.
This is about being used, like to the extent of like to convince voters and to use people. Because look, I'm telling you guys, this did happen. Like I had multiple Trump interview requests in and they were basically like, no. And I heard it off the record. Yeah. It's like, bro, you're going to ask him 2 hard questions. Like this, it was quite literally told to me, right? Now, I think, there's a reason he's going on Theo Von and all, and other places because they didn't think that was going to happen. So, I mean, like, that's what I'm asking for.
I had 3 things I wanted to ask him about. And the entire interview was, in my mind, I think, like, designed to get him to a place of comfort where he could honestly speak at length on those things. I wanted him to acknowledge he was going to protect IVF. It's obviously important to me. It's how my wife and I were able to conceive. And
Roe versus Wade, we're abortion. We wanted to ask him about that. We did.
Oh yeah, we asked him about the abortion. There was there was like a little interest in that for sure. But for me, it was empathy for the illegals. Which doesn't seem that he's doing. And to
his credit, man, Andrew said to Trump, you have had people working in your establishment who were here illegally.
Yeah, you did say that. I remember that.
So it's like, and then there was one more.
And you asked him to be nicer, I think.
No,
well,
I was
not nicer, but
it was like, listen,
more
turn down the red.
Like, what are we doing here? Right. And then there was obviously the end of the foreign wars.
Al said your ear looks fine. I mean, if you listen, we said some shit.
This is the revisionist history that's so funny, and I think it's very important because I think what happens a lot of time is people are looking to skirt accountability. So anybody that's critical of these interviews would like to put all the success of Trump's campaign on these interviews instead of putting some accountability on the fact that they ran a dead guy and then a woman that couldn't speak.
Sure. Like
you need to, at the end of the day, take some accountability for not really having another offering that was, successful to the majority of people.
Totally.
Right? So I think it's easier to just place that blame. So I think there's a little bit of that going on.
And we called him out for evading the question, and then he was clever enough to come up with a term that's
he's good at
the
it.
weave
What did he
situation.
say? He's like, it's
the weave.
Yeah. But no, the revisionist history I'm talking about
Yeah.
is, if you remember, and there are plenty of articles that would support this, the second that interview came out, the conversation was not, look at this puff piece. The conversation was on all left-wing media was podcast host laughs in Trump's face
Yes, I
about
that.
claiming that he's a kind of truthful person.
Right.
They held
that
him
was a breaking points headline.
They held
too,
him
actually. It was good. It was a good headline.
It was every headline.
Yeah.
I was watching in real time. Bro, the Kamala campaign was clipping the interview.
Yeah, I remember.
And
that,
they were
Kamala HQ clipped it.
They clipped it nonstop. So if you actually look at this, the left-wing media was using this as fuel for their fire.
Sure.
They weren't going, look at this puff piece. They asked the nice questions. When everybody watched initially, the left was very happy about it. They're like, finally, a podcast bro, whatever, holds him to the fire. Finally, there's all this stuff. So this revisionist history where like after the election results, we look back and be like, oh, they just fluffed him. It's like, well, what was it?
Fair.
Was it the best interview with Trump, which you guys said, the left wing is saying, or was it the reason he got elected?
Yeah. It's a very fair
That's why I feel like this stuff is like disingenuous.
Well, like
if,
kind
he,
of flipping
if he
it.
lost, it would have been, Trump ruined his election by going on all these podcasts.
Exactly.
No question. And people did say that, right?
Yeah.
Remember, like, Tony Hinchcliffe is going to cost Trump the election.
Exactly.
The Puerto Rican vote went up.
Also, taken for a ride. This is a ride that was open to Kamala.
Yes.
She didn't want to come on.
Right.
So, like...
It was open for Waltz. He didn't want to come on. It was open for everybody. We literally asked everybody.
But then after the election, now a lot of them are coming on, which I think is good. And I think it's a great thing.
This is what we
want.
want.
I think that's the interesting part, to watch Buttigieg kind of come on here. And his clips went massively viral.
Yeah,
I'm sure you guys are aware.
So did Bernie, and he was
Bernie's
fantastic.
as well.
And I think what a lot of people are realizing that don't just watch headlines, the people who eventually wouldn't really watch us and had a perception of us, and then they go watch like the full Buttigieg interview, they watch the full, is that like this idea that like we're this like MAGA pod is really just kind of like placed on us. In reality, we're four guys who live in New York City, born and raised. I mean, Alex and I born and raised in New York City, like lifelong Democrats, right? Who felt this.
I voted for Kamal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we forgive him.
Right.
So this idea of us, I think, you obviously know us, so it's like not really true. And then I think people are trying to grapple with when they watch the Buttigieg interview, like what they thought we were and then what we actually are. And that's what happens when you only read and watch headlines.
Totally.
Now, what I always say is like, we're accountable for that. When we put content out on the internet, it can be cut and sliced in all these different ways. So like, that's not their fault. That's our, I don't want to call fault, but we're accountable. That's totally fine.
Right.
That's the game we play.
Of course.
And eventually we hope that enough different voices come on the podcast, as we'd always endeavored to do, where people get a better sense of us. But like, you're going to go through criticism on the way. And if the first time you get criticism, you fold, you never really were about it in the first place.
Yeah. All right. Let's switch to immigration, because this is where I find the most interesting divide. So I don't know if it's true, and I didn't ask Joe if it was true, but there was a report about dinner. Joe Rogan had dinner with Trump, and he was like, hey, I want you to go lighten up on mass deportation. You've been very open about it. You're like, I wish that he wasn't doing this. That's the one thing where I'm like, you really didn't know what you were voting for? Like, there was a sign that said mass deportation at the RNC, right? Like, it literally said it. He said, I'm going to declare the Alien Enemies Act, and I'm going to deport them immediately on day one. Yeah. Like, it was always open season. There was no distinction, criminal or not. Maybe sometimes, but like, it was pretty open. It's like, if you're illegal, you're going home. Yeah. So, I mean, look, I understand realpolitik and you have to balance certain things, but that's where I've seen some of the like, come on, guys, like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Like in your pushback here against Trump, like you quite literally voted for this.
Yeah, that's reasonable, but I didn't bring up immigration when I said these weren't the things I'm voting for.
Okay, fair enough.
That's where that's where it's disingenuous.
Right,
I was specifically talking about Epstein, foreign wars, and the budget.
Sure.
And then they go, look at all this stuff with immigration. That's not what you voted for. It's like, I'm not bringing that up. If I brought that up, then that would have been the context. Obviously, I think the bummer is that like it's a bipartisan supported issue to get every criminal, illegal alien out of here. I think when you start to get the divide is when you have people that have been working for your family for years. You see these hardworking people that are doing these businesses. Yes, they're here illegally. Yes, they came illegally and they knew if they got caught, they'd be thrown back. That is the game. I get that. But it pulls at your heartstrings when you see like a family being torn apart, or you see them running into a fucking Home Depot and these guys scattered. It like you, as a human being, you have an emotional reaction to that.
Okay.
So I have a lot of empathy for that. And that's what I spoke to Trump about. I was like, guys, maybe there's a better way. I don't know how you go about doing it. I don't know how Holman does it. But if you at least bare minimum just started with anybody who had committed a crime, I think you would get a lot more support.
Which is what he told us he would do.
Well, I mean, look, again, though, I want to be fair to them. Alien Enemies Act was out there. Like, they were like, this is what we're doing. Like, CCOT in El Salvador, they're like, it was honest. Like,
no, I don't think that I don't think they were dishonest, but I also don't think that, like, you have to agree with every single policy that a president has in order to vote for them.
I totally agree.
And I don't think that you are accountable for every single one. You could say, yes, you supported it because if you voted for that person, you did 100%, but it doesn't mean you agree with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people that voted for Obama that might not agree with drone striking a wedding. Are they responsible for those deaths? Right. Is that the thing that they voted for? Like, did I kill those people? No, I wouldn't want that to happen, right? So I think there's a lot of things that governments do. I think that people that voted for different politicians in Flint, Michigan, they don't feel responsible for all those kids who were poisoned by the lead pipes, but technically they did vote for those politicians that allowed that to happen. So this is one of those things where it's just like, people are hurt, they're angry, and I think that they're trying to, like, place that blame for that pain and that anger they feel. And I get that. That's a human reaction. You're totally allowed to do it. But I'm just going to explain, like, my perspective on
to
that.
your point, in 2008, didn't Obama say he was against gay marriage? So if you voted for Obama, is it your fault it didn't get passed?
Are you a homophobe? You must be a homophobe if you voted for Obama.
The irony is he won more votes, and that's how he was able to become president by doing that. What? Record scratch.
I'm just joking, Barry. We love you.
All right. So the final one, which I think is a very interesting question, is around vibes. And so the biggest critique I have seen, and I'll be honest, I even fell victim to some of this, was you guys were voting on vibes, not on policy. Not you specifically, but this contributed to the vibe-based election where you encouraged people or got people, everyone was in a headspace where the vibe was that Kamala and Biden were awful and that Trump was awesome. So to the extent here that there is regret, was any of it, quote, vibes-based in retrospect?
If you remove vibes, because I think vibes is a little bit
it's ambiguous. It's hard to
no. It's
excitement.
I think
it was in the ether.
I
right?
would say culture.
Yeah.
Like, there's a specific, like, they invited me to go to the inauguration, and I didn't go to the inauguration.
Good move in retrospect.
But in my opinion was like, if I go to the inauguration, I'm endorsing everything about you, right? I'm going there and celebrating this moment. It's like, no, you have some ideas that I would like to see implemented, and the second you don't implement those ideas, I'm on that ass. And if you do implement them, I'm going to praise you for implementing the ideas that I believe are good.
Sure.
But I think when you start going to the events and you start dancing and that kind of shit, then it makes it very difficult for you to hold that person to the fire.
Yeah,
which is what we're watching right now. There's a lot of podcast guys who went to the inauguration, and now it's all very tepid, right? It's like, oh, well, yeah, I wish, it's terrible, and they have bad advisors. And I'm like, well, it's not just the advisor. There's
hold the candle to that ass.
Yeah.
What was the question you were asking real quick?
It was about vibes. And it was just a reflection on a vibes-based.
What I would say is that, like, I think a lot of people were voting on culture, and there might not be policy tied to culture. But for example, like, one cultural issue I think was the identity politics stuff. I think that there was, like, an exhaustion by it. And it looked like the culture that Trump was ushering through is like, yo, we're not going to be obsessed with the word police and the identity politics shit, and everything is 40 different genders, and you got to put the genders, so your pronouns on your bio. Like, that cultural shift, I think, was very supported.
Totally.
Especially by, like, the guys in the manosphere, let's say. And I think that captured people, and that is not necessarily a policy thing, but you have seen a massive shift when you see all these politicians start taking their pronouns out of their Twitter bio, right? You start to see, so I don't know what policy that is, but it does feel like it's a move in a direction for a culture shift that people want to get on board.
I totally agree.
Piggybacking on the culture, I would call that just excitement. Because we've seen with Obama, the way that he got people excited, we have a low voter turnout in general. But he got people who never voted before excited to vote for the first time. This last election, Trump got people excited to vote. So, and then you've seen Mamdani. Mamdani got people excited to vote in a primary. We never vote in primaries. Nobody gives a fuck about primaries.
Especially New York City.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like,
he won the most votes in primary history.
In history.
Well, with ranked choice voting. But still, I mean, it's a lot of votes.
But so that's what I'm saying. It's more about excitement. It's not vibes.
Depending on how you describe vibes, or define vibes, most elections probably come down to vibes.
Bill Clinton is vibes.
JFK was fucking vibes. Bill Clinton was vibes. This is the first time Republicans had vibes, and y'all can't handle it.
Well, Reagan.
But that's because Reagan had vibes.
Yeah.
This is the first time in our lifetimes that they had vibes, and y'all ran someone with no vibes.
Yeah. Who's the dude that
That's on
says
you.
yeah and then just lost everything?
Howard Dean.
Yeah, I mean, that's like...
They fucked him on that. I'll
of
be
course.
honest.
He did get fucked.
It's because he was against the Iraq War. That was used against him. I'll stand up for Howard.
But it's quintessentially vibes,
I totally
right? Like,
agree.
it gets run everywhere.
Howard didn't do anything wrong. I'll say it.
But, I mean...
But the vibe, to Mark's point.
I agree.
And Kamala and her
gone.
campaign, I think, were also trying to run an equal and counter vibe energy where they were like, we are joy. And we are the party of joy. And those guys are weird and we're joy.
They were trying to manufacture vibes.
Right. Okay, so then finally...
That's the way I would see it.
There was a moment where it felt like they were going to break through. I don't know if
it was
you guys
summer
remember.
2020. Yeah.
It was like this
or 2024,
moment.
I mean.
Yeah, where like it seemed like they were having a big turnout at their live events, and they were looking at Trump, and they were like, "Yo, nobody's showing up to his."
Bodied him in that debate.
And then the first debate, there was a moment where it seemed like there was a lot of positive energy, and I've spoken to a lot of my friends that like were really staunch Kamala supporters and like worked in Democratic campaigns. And what they said to me, which was really interesting, in retrospect, they're like, I thought Kamala was going to blow him away. I thought it was going to be an absolute blowout. And what this showed me is that I was kind of existing in a little bit of a bubble. And I think that that's really helpful. Like, I think it's good that people start to learn that if you're existing in an echo chamber that's not only rewarded by like your friends and community, but also your algorithm, you don't get a real sense of what's happening in the world. And I think being able to pull themselves out of that, they start going, oh, maybe not every person that voted for Trump is MAGA. Maybe a lot of people that voted were just rejecting this democratic institution that seemed to like strip its constituents of the democratic process. And I think now they're starting to realize that. And when you see like Pete or Bernie or any of these guys talk about it, they're quite critical of what happened in these last elections. And that's refreshing.
Well, I want to hear more from Pete in particular.
Well, he's also part of that.
Yeah, he's part of the machine. But
even as part of the machine, when he came on here, like he didn't balk at it at all. We asked him. But yeah.
No, you guys did a good job on that, actually. And to be honest, he will have to still pay for his role like in all of that. Because, I mean, he worked for the guy and he didn't say anything, right? You know, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I want to end on the Mamdani point, which is what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And you've quite a bit of news. MAGA's very pissed off at you. They're like, how is a Muslim socialist
Be
America
pissed at me,
first?
Be pissed at me.
But the question...
As long as both extremes are pissed at me, I am in the perfect space.
All right, so then but let's talk about the New York vote first comment.
Yeah.
Because, okay, then to the extent you're a guy in our culture, Matt Damon's and Jason Bourne's in your fucking promo video.
Shout out, Matt.
That's pretty big. All right, so the question then on that front is, as somebody who voted for Trump and then can look at a guy like Mamdani, who if you were to watch Fox News, everyone's like, this guy's a Muslim socialist, he's going to destroy New York. And you look at this person, you say this person is New York first. What in the culture leads you to that conclusion, and then also to like surmise his victory here in the Democratic primary in New York?
I mean, New York first to me means he's trying to address issues that New Yorkers have instead of gaslighting New Yorkers into thinking they don't have issues. So like the specific moment happened obviously when they're all in that like little like public access debate stage. It was embarrassing that the greatest city in the history of the world, they got like 3 fucking disposable cameras that they're videotaping this on these like plastic
we're in a nicer
podiums.
studio right now.
What the fuck is going on?
Right.
We should have lent them the studio, right? So, and then they all ask him where their first foreign trip is going to be, which is not important to New Yorkers. If I can't pay rent, where you go for your first foreign trip is not important. Okay. And then he goes, I'm not leaving. I'm going to stay right here and work for New Yorkers. Immediately, that's a New York first mentality, right? Him doing the halal shit feels like New York first. Him saying rent freezes. Now, keep in mind, I disagree with a lot of his policies, and I am really curious to see how he will enact them. One, I think they'll be quite difficult given like the structure of our democracy. Like you're going to have to deal with Albany to raise taxes.
I've talked about this as well.
God, I don't want to.
It's a procedural point which non-New Yorkers actually have no idea about. The way this place is run is insane.
It's very difficult, right? So I do think that he'll have difficulty in executing these things. But when you want to talk about vibes, you want to talk about culture, what he is bringing forward is an idea that he is fighting to get people in New York the things that they need. And what they need is savings. What they need is, hey, Did I get it?
Yeah, I think you got it.
Oh, you got it.
No,
Oh,
no.
They need is
All right, we're gonna clip that.
screens on our windows.
Yeah.
No. But like, yeah, so like when I say he's New York first, it seems like he's actually trying to serve the people of New York the things that they desperately need.
Mm-hmm.
And do I agree with his solutions? No. Can he convince me when he comes on to the podcast? Sure. I would love to learn why this works. From the people that I've spoken to, like I can see some downstream effects, especially with like the rent freezes and stuff that might hurt. But like, let's hear it. I want to hear it out. And I feel like they're appealing to what New Yorkers need. I don't know what the fuck Cuomo wants to do. Has Cuomo told you how he's going to help you? Like, he's just going,
He's going to visit Israel, though.
Yeah, that's important.
That's great.
Right?
Yeah, you
So
put
it's
old
like-
people in homes, you let them die, you don't report it. That's New York.
And
New
if
York
you
first.
haven't heard anything, that means it's going to be status quo.
Exactly. So if they're not saying anything, then you assume it's going to be the same. And I think that an important thing that people need to realize, and I think Trump benefited from this, I think Obama benefited from this, we have much more leeway for an outsider's ideas than we do an insider.
Interesting. Okay, why? And how would you explain that to a Democrat who wants to win, not just flagrant vote, but let's say the audience who's watching?
Well, I think an insider, the expectation is it's going to be status quo.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same thing that we've existed in that's not working for us, right? So if you're an insider and you don't have any crazy rebellious idea, and you don't because you've been in politics for 20, 30 years, I'm going to assume that the exact same life that I'm living now is going to happen when you're in office. An outsider has all these cockamamie ideas that they might not be able to be implemented, but at least they have hope that they could be, right? And that is seductive when you're struggling. Hope is the most amazing thing. It's the antidote for everything. So let's see if they're able to implement it. Let's see if Trump is able to do these things that he promised us he would do. And then if they don't, let's hold them to the fire.
Yeah.
Let's say Mamdani does get elected and then he's not able to do these things. Hold that ass to the fire.
And there's hope for insiders too, because you could be a Bernie. He's been in the system forever, and he still goes.
But he's
and
been
he
consistent,
fucks the
right?
system.
That's very
He
different.
seems like he's like an outcast within the
Yeah,
system.
but
I think
you can change from inside.
when you look at the Trump election, I look back on that Kamala's for they, them ad, and I'm like, holy fuck, that
Which was
had
huge.
a massive impact.
Huge ad.
Equally with Mamdani, I think you watch that clip from that debate that you talked about, there is no question one of them seems like an outsider because the insiders are saying, I'm going to go to Israel, I'm going to go to... And if you're watching that, you're like, what the fuck does this have to do with anything? What's going on with you guys?
Yeah.
And then the fact that anybody could take... It's obviously my brother, I'm going to defend him always, but like, to take exception to him saying Mamdani comes across New York first, when every other person made it about another country, and then he says, I'm taking care of New York first. He literally says he's New York first. How are we supposed to interpret that any differently?
And then Portnoy is like, he's a socialist, he's a
suppose the last
communist.
thing I wanted to
He's
get
a
to.
communist, he's doing all these things.
Yeah.
It's like, Portnoy, just say you're upset about the Israel shit.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Right.
Stop acting like you don't live in New York. Stop acting
Yeah.
like you care.
You live in Miami, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You stop acting like you care if like a socialist communist runs New York. You're upset because he said
Yeah.
globalize the intifada. Just
Right.
make it about that. You're allowed to make it about that.
Sure.
But don't.
And they tried already, actually.
yeah,
How did
and it
that
doesn't work.
out?
But
Yeah.
like,
You
which-
spend enough days, just enough days here to not pay New York taxes, and then you go back. Which I don't blame you for. I do it too, but like, let's be honest.
Stop it. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, and you're allowed to be upset about that. You
Right.
should saying fucking globalize the intifada and then not backing it off, knowing what it means to people. It's like, that's fucked up, and you should be able to be held accountable for it, and he can be fucked up. But don't give me this, I'm afraid of communism and socialism, and try to attribute this thing Jamie Dimon said to me.
Oh, Jamie
Yeah,
Dimon
yeah.
knows what New Yorkers are going
Right,
through.
yeah,
He
so-
knows what real New Yorkers are going through.
Also, he lives in Connecticut. Last
Yeah.
episode. But anyway, yeah. I'm pretty sure. You don't fact check me. I'm sure he owns a
I don't
penthouse
care
or
what nobody
whatever.
says about
Yeah.
Mamdani if you're not spending more than 51% of the year in this city. If you're not spending more than 51%, you're not pot committed. So just shut the fuck up about it. Like,
All right,
we're
I
the
like
one
it.
that got to deal with it.
I
right?
like it. I mean, I think that's the final kind of thing I wanted to end on was to just look at whether, again, you don't have to personalize it if you don't want to, but do you think that the podcast bro audience is up for grabs for the Democrats the next time around?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
I'm up for
And
grabs.
it's not just for you, but I'm talking about the whole ecosystem. And you know
Dude,
them better
let
than
me
I do.
tell you why.
Theo, Joe Rogan,
Let me tell you
Tim
why.
Dillon, everybody.
Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
Look at this bug is going to get killed.
Yeah.
Oh, did you get it?
No, he didn't.
Come on.
All right.
Yeah.
Oculus
All right.
reflexes.
So,
Yeah.
so the
as soon as I slapped, I knew that shit was ugly. I regretted moving
the
with loose ass wrists.
I'll tell you why it's up for grabs, because we're allegedly this big MAGA podcast, and Pete Buttigieg comes on and has the biggest interview of his career. Not our biggest interview of our career. His biggest interview of his career.
That was Trump. No, I'm kidding.
It's actually Rogan and Mr. Beast. But, you know, but like, so the biggest interview of his career is our listeners.
Sure.
Right? Bernie comes on, has a massive episode with that's it. So what it says to me is that what you think is our listenership is not. Now we know this because I've been doing stand-up around the world and I have the most diverse audience in all of stand-up.
Yeah.
So all these white people complaining about all this bullshit who have no friends that are minorities at all, we laugh at them when we go to a show and we see what it is and it looks like the fucking UN. So what I think is, it's very simple. Whoever has the ideas that meet the needs of the people and can actively convince us that they can execute those ideas is going to win our vote. It's going to win my vote.
Facts.
100%.
Yeah.
Trump had better ideas to me, okay, than what I saw from the institution, the Democratic institution, which had a guy who was dead as president and then inserted another person that none of us voted for even in the primary in the first place. To me, that subverts democracy, and I don't like that. I'm an American.
Yeah. And not to mention the class issue, I think inflation and then a lot of foreign wars is an issue that can be won by either side.
Yeah.
Like, and if Democrats decide that they're going to really focus on that in the next election, then I think people, regardless of which, political aisle they fall into, will, I think, be responsive to it.
Can I bring up to that point real quick?
You're the one on time deadline right here, my boy.
Don't worry about that. We can stretch a little bit. This is like a very important thing, I think, for Democrats to know. When the Republican Party wins union support, it is something that you've got to pay very close attention to. If the Democratic Party does not stand for union workers, what does it stand for? What does it stand for?
I agree.
Identity politics?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I think that's what happened. Yeah, I'm with you.
The Democratic Party should hold down union support. And when they decide to either not endorse anybody or some of them endorse Trump, you have to realize that there's something else going on here, right? Like, and I know that's what I would say. Like, how does Trump appealing with Republican policies to union workers?
Right.
Where the fuck do those cross? So what I think it is they just felt like the Democrats weren't answering any of their concerns at all.
To me, it seems like really what you're saying is everything has to be outsider, which is a really interesting problem for the Democrats because it's a party that venerates insiders and punishes outsiders. Guys like Ro Khanna, who I know you guys recently had on. And that'll be the interesting war for them. And maybe they will pick a Buttigieg who's able to speak to you and also, Mr. MSNBC.
I think it's outsiders.
All right.
I think they'll get it.
I hope that you're right for the sake of the country. I'm still personally skeptical.
I think people are just disillusioned. A lot of the people, if they listen to this podcast and voted for Trump, they're just disillusioned with how things was.
Yeah.
He seemed like things would be different. Now they're not. I guarantee you a lot of people listening to this podcast are disillusioned with him right now.
Yeah.
So bring us somebody that feels different, that will do differently, and then they'll vote for that person.
I like it. Okay. Vibe check question from all of you. JD Vance, if he runs in 2028.
I think
What's your vibe check on him?
I think JD Vance is going to have to grapple with one of the most difficult things in the history of this country. And that is like how AI will fundamentally change the workforce. And I think that he is uniquely situated in that he comes from a place in America that was absolutely devastated by outsourcing. He comes from Appalachia. He, comes from like a drugged up household, unfortunately. And he saw what outsourcing does to a community. And once, you could call thriving community, at least there was some economic impact there. And now, it's like, I think there's an Appalachia scholarship that they offer anybody who basically passes high school. You get free college in the state of Ohio. I mean, they treat white people there like Native Americans. It's like, it's unbelievable, right? So like, for me, I would ask JD, it's like, how are you going to make sure the rest of America doesn't turn into the exact place that you grew up in? And what are you going to do right now? Like, I don't think you should be waiting. I think you should be doing it right. What policies are you implementing right now? You have the ear to the president. What are you telling we need to do to protect that from happening?
And how are you going to grapple with that when Peter Thiel is funding your campaign?
Well, so this is what I was really, that's a fantastic question, by the way. I meant more about like vibe check as an insider or outsider.
He got to work on his jog. That jog was suspect.
Vibe check seems he seems insidery to me in that he just seems like a politician.
I think he's a brilliant chameleon. And he will mold to whatever he needs to be. Because the fact that he called Trump Hitler and he's now his vice president, How the fuck does that happen?
Keeping my personal feelings out of this because I genuinely want to know. Like, I'm like, how do you guys feel?
I think that I think we don't really know what. I think
like he mentioned the Teal thing. I know Theo was upset about that.
Yeah,
like
I'm very because they've invested in him for a long time now. They put a lot of money in, so they're eventually going to ask for something for that. And I don't know. Maybe Trump doesn't get all that big tech investment if JD's not there. Who knows? But they didn't.
I think so.
They didn't sign on until JD was announced.
Fair. Yeah.
So that's the name of the game, and I'm sure JD's aware of that. So the thing about JD is that there's, without a question, he's been doing defense for Trump, right? So he is obviously very intelligent. If you treat him like some country bumpkin, you're a fucking idiot. He's going to walk all over you. He's ready for every fucking interview, and the emotional intelligence is through the roof. Yeah. The guy is broke as shit growing up, ends up going to Yale. Offers nothing to the Nepo babies and oligarchs' kids at Yale. He offers nothing. And somehow manages to navigate that social strata, which is very difficult, even if you're a Nepo baby.
I agree. I've known JD since 2015, so I agree with you.
What I think a lot of times Dems is they're not really treating him with maybe the respect that they and fear that they should.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Once he's unleashed, we're going to see what happens. But he's not allowed to be unleashed yet. He's in defense mode for Trump. Trump fucks up. JD goes and explains it in a way that everybody goes, oh, that is kind of a good point. You know, she's like a think tank for when Trump does something that's unpopular. I want to know what he got to do.
But yeah, he's going to have a massive issue depending on how Trump's, second term actually finishes, because he'll ultimately have to answer for a lot of the domestic as well as the foreign policy decisions. And if there's some type of like foreign invasion in Iran, then he will either have to distance himself internally, which, as we know, Trump is adamant about loyalism.
Let's be honest.
So he's here now criticizing Zelensky in the White House, and then we'll have to somehow backtrack on that if he's trying to get elected, or he'll have to try to justify an Iran invasion if in the event that happens. Hopefully not. And I think that it'll be consequential if he tries to run.
I think if Trump ends his term really poorly, I don't think he wins a primary. And if it ends really well, I think Trump is going to run for a third term. So what's he going to do?
I like it. Guys, Andrew, you got to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for having me, letting me use the studio.
Anytime, bro. We love
buddy.
you. We appreciate you.